On my birthday, my daughter sent me a red envelope of 18.8 in the family group chat. As soon as I clicked to accept it, she immediately made a sarcastic remark in the group. Mom, I've noticed that you're actually quite greedy for money. You instantly accept red envelopes as soon as they're sent. In this regard, you're not as good as my mother-in-law. Every time we send her a red envelope, she never accepts it and instead asks if we need money. As soon as these words were spoken, the lively group chat fell silent. Seeing that I didn't respond, my daughter sent 2 more sarcastic voice messages. It was just a casual joke. Mom, you're not going to be so petty and sulk, are you? Besides, I wasn't wrong. Last month, my mother-in-law didn't accept any red envelopes for her birthday. It was so much better having the whole family gather together warmly and lovingly. Oh. So the 40,000 yuan gold bracelet she gave her mother-in-law and the 30,000 yuan 10-day European trip for 2 don't count as money, but when I, her own mother, received 18.8 yuan for my 55th birthday, I'm the greedy one. Well then, I suppose I shouldn't impose on her any longer. I turned off the gas, packed my bags, unlinked my retirement salary card that was paying off her mortgage, and headed straight back to my hometown. From making the decision to leave to completing the check-in procedures, it took less than 2 hours. My mood wasn't as heavy as I had imagined. Instead, I let out a long sigh of relief as if a burden had been lifted. Traveling thousands of miles to come here, taking care of my only daughter's child and serving as a nanny, I was willing to do it, but I am not a free slave. I also need basic respect. Since you like her mother-in-law's type, I might as well learn from her and become a hands-off manager myself. It wasn't until I sat in the departure lounge that I finally had the mood to check my messages. Turns out, during those 2 hours, my daughter had been constantly tagging me in the group chat. Mom, why aren't you saying anything? Leaving me hanging here is so awkward. Oh my, is she really angry? You, look at your grandma, still so petty at her age, not even replying to a joke. Perhaps noticing my lack of response, relatives began to smooth things over. Your mom might be busy with chores. She's not someone who cares too much about money, as long as the children show their affection on her birthday. Parents are happy. You should say less about her. Seeing someone trying to mediate, my daughter's tone grew even more agitated. I didn't even say anything. What did I say about her? My mom doesn't care about money. You clearly don't know her at all. She keeps track of every penny. The monthly subsidy of 1,500 yuan, not a single cent less. She's always collected it from me. You mentioned wanting a snack on the way home from school the other day, and she even made the kid pay with her own smartwatch. TSK, our dear old grandma sure knows how to keep her purse tightly shut. Everyone was taken aback by these words. Seriously, you're her only daughter, and she has to pay 1,500 a month just to live with you. Don't get me wrong, sis, but at our age, if our granddaughter wants something, just buy it for her. It won't cost much, and no matter how much you save, you can't take it with you when you're gone. By this point, I was so furious I couldn't speak. Tears streaming down my face. I can't believe this is the biological daughter I raised with all my heart and soul. To think she would so brazenly slander me in front of all our relatives. The so-called 1,500 yuan subsidy she mentioned wasn't for me. It was the monthly food budget for the entire family. But my daughter has high standards for food. High-quality meat, protein, organic eggs, fresh fruits and vegetables, and imported milk must be standard at every meal. Anyone with life experience knows that the 1,500 yuan she gives me, averaging 50 yuan a day, is far from enough. Every month, I have to chip in at least 2,000 to 3,000 yuan myself. Don't ask me why I still take that 1,500 yuan from her if that's the case. Ultimately, it's because she's always crying to me about how stressed she is, asking me to help her with 3,000 yuan a month for the mortgage. My monthly retirement pension is only 6,000 yuan, and basically all of it goes to her family of 3. As for the time the child bought snacks, she was suffering from tooth decay, and I didn't want her to eat candied hawthorn, so I refused to pay for it. In the end, while I wasn't paying attention, the child secretly used her smartwatch to make the purchase. I never expected that in my daughter's eyes, I would be the big bad wolf who would even calculate over $5. Numbly scrolling to the end of the chat history, I was about to speak up and defend myself when my daughter's latest message suddenly popped up on the screen. So boring, I didn't even forget her birthday, and she accepted the red envelope, yet she still didn't give me a good look. Forget it. My mom has been like this her whole life, emotionally distant, as her own daughter. How can I really hold it against her? Enough said. I still have to go pick up my in-laws. We're having a family dinner at my place tonight to properly celebrate my mom's birthday. I couldn't hold back any longer. I immediately opened the red envelope and refunded the 18.8 yuan I had just received directly back to her in the group chat. while also sending 2 messages along with it. No need to trouble yourself for me. I've already returned to my hometown in Jiangqing. I'm such a greedy, stingy, and petty person. From now on, I won't go to the big city to take advantage of my daughter anymore. As soon as my message went out, the group chat was flooded with question marks. My daughter immediately accepted the red packet and then launched a barrage of questions. Seriously, Mom, you're being so petty, threatening to go back to your hometown over a couple of jokes. You even returned the red envelope. Was it not enough for you? It's already mealtime. Can you stop making a scene? My in-laws and other guests are on their way. Hurry up and finish cooking, and wash more fruit too. Don't make them think you're stingy. If I'd known you'd be so sensitive about the red envelope thing, I wouldn't have said anything in the group chat. It was all because of a bet between my husband and me. I said you're the stubborn, prideful type who wouldn't accept birthday gifts or money, but he insisted you would. Well, turns out he was right. Seeing the conflict escalating, the relatives stepped in to mediate. All right, let's all calm down. How much animosity can there really be between a mother and daughter? Both sides should take a step back. Harmony in the family leads to prosperity in all things, even Chinemo. My son-in-law, who rarely speaks in our family group chat, chimed in. Mom, my parents and relatives came all this way to liven things up for you. Could you do me a favor and stop being angry with Yuan for now? I sneered inwardly. They made it sound so nice, all for my sake, all to celebrate my birthday, but did they ever stop to think about who ends up working the hardest every time someone has a birthday at home, from early morning grocery shopping and a thorough house cleaning, to an entire afternoon spent washing vegetables and cooking? By the time everyone finished dinner in the evening, I still had to laboriously wash a huge pile of dishes. After finally tidying up the kitchen, once the guests finished their mahjong game and left, I still had to mop the floor before I could rest. What about everyone else? The in-laws are guests when they visit, and in their eyes, there's no work to be done. My daughter and son-in-law were busy entertaining guests, so they couldn't help. Only I, the free and good-natured old mother, was the most suitable to be put to work. After a whole day of busy work, I was so exhausted that every part of my body ached, and it usually took several days to recover. Whoever wants to celebrate this damn birthday can go ahead. There have been too many lessons from the past, so this time I made sure to tell my daughter and son-in-law a week in advance. For my birthday this year, please don't invite so many people to make it lively again. Just the 4 of us having a simple meal together is enough. At the time, they agreed without asking much, and I thought everything was settled. But this morning, just before my daughter took the child out, she surprised me by announcing that Chinmo's whole family would be coming over tonight to celebrate my birthday. Seeing my expression change, she immediately pulled a long face. Mom, why can't you appreciate kindness? They kindly offered to come. How could I possibly say don't come? My mom doesn't welcome you as guests, and besides, it's the weekend. My in-laws just got back from their trip to Europe, and the family hasn't had a gathering yet. What's wrong with getting together? Don't always prioritize convenience over family bonds. Hearing her say that, my anger flared up even more. You're so enthusiastic. Why not just book a private room at a big restaurant for a gathering like you did for your mother-in-law's birthday? That way, everyone can relax. The daughter frowned, her face full of disbelief. Mom, do you know how much a table in a private room costs? It's several thousand yuan. Are you going to pay for it yourself? Besides, if you cook yourself, it only costs a few hundred yuan. Isn't that better than going out? You don't always compare yourself to my mother-in-law. Your situation is different from hers. Besides, you've never been one for extravagance. Why waste money unnecessarily? I couldn't speak. My daughter and son-in-law both have fixed salaries. After paying the mortgage and car loan, they still have to raise their child, so they're under a lot of pressure too. I couldn't bring myself to ask them to book a restaurant to celebrate my birthday. I've already used all my pension to help them out, and I don't have any extra money left myself. In the end, I had no choice but to accept the arrangement for a family dinner at home. Rushing to the market to buy a large pile of groceries, the menu was personally drafted by my daughter and sent to me. I had to visit 2 different markets just to get everything. Her father-in-law's favorite hairy crab, her mother-in-law's favorite sea cucumber, her sister-in law's favorite lamb chops, even the glutinous rice pork ribs with lotus root that her mother-in-law's gossip-loving old friend adores. She listed everything clearly, leaving nothing out, but strangely enough, not a single dish on that menu was something I actually enjoy eating. It's not true to say I wasn't disappointed, but then I thought about how hard it is for a daughter to marry far from home, and that being attentive to her in-laws would give them less reason to find fault, making her life a bit easier, so I didn't say anything. After a whole day of busy work, I just grabbed a steamed bun with pickles for lunch. In the midst of all the chaos, I saw she had sent me a red envelope in the group chat, and without thinking much, I opened it. The moment I saw the number 18.8, I admit I was disappointed. After all, just last month, my daughter's mother-in-law celebrated her birthday. She and I are the same age, but the gifts my daughter and son-in-law gave her added up to nearly 80,000 yuan, and that money was borrowed from me. The two of them said they wanted to give her mother-in-law a grand celebration for her milestone birthday. Coincidentally, a pension fund I had saved 5 years ago had just matured. After my daughter sweet-talked me for 2 days, I relented and lent her the entire sum. My daughter spent a full month preparing for the birthday banquet, from selecting the restaurant to tasting the dishes, finalizing the menu, sending out invitations, and decorating the venue. Every detail was meticulously and thoughtfully arranged. How could I have imagined back then that when it came to her own mother, the gift she would give me for my 55th birthday would be just 18.8 yuan? Thinking of these things, I was already in tears. Before boarding the plane, I took one last look at the family group chat. My daughter was still in the group chat, trying to prove her filial piety toward me, her old mother, just to highlight how inappropriate it was for someone my age to still be throwing a tantrum. The relatives smoothed things over for a while, and seeing that I no longer argued back, they all assumed I had accepted their advice and were busy preparing the meal. No one cared about how I felt, and no one took my words seriously. After all, what kind of old mother, accustomed to giving, would let a few words ruin a lifetime of affection for her own beloved daughter? Even I myself didn't expect to impulsively go this far, but I have no regrets. Without the slightest hesitation, I turned off my phone and boarded the plane. 3 hours later, I landed safely. Just as I opened my phone, as expected, I was greeted by 99+ messages. There were dozens of missed calls, and the private and group chat messages were simply too many to read through. Through my daughter's more than a dozen 60-second voice messages filled with angry condemnation, I roughly understood the situation over there, discovering that the free nanny was not at home and hadn't obediently prepared the meals. With a large group of relatives gathered at the house and nothing to eat, my daughter directly lost her temper and broke down, but she couldn't get in touch with me no matter what, so she could only put pressure on me through the family group. "Mom, you're so selfish, running away from home over a joke and leaving such a mess for me to deal with. Chin Mo's relatives and friends came all the way to wish you a happy birthday out of kindness, and you think they're in the wrong. With that attitude of yours, do you even have a conscience? How am I supposed to face my in-laws after this? Thank goodness my mother-in-law isn't as petty and nitpicky as you are." My son-in-law's tone wasn't pleasant either. "Mom, if you have any issues with my family, you can talk to me directly. There's no need to pull this disappearing act at the last minute and embarrass us in front of so many people." Even my granddaughter joined in the group chat to criticize me. "Grandma is a meanie. Drinking cold water, you made mommy cry, and you doesn't want grandma anymore." My relatives also came out to condemn me one after another. "Chirshia, this is your fault. No matter what, you shouldn't have run away from home. The child just made an unintentional joke. Is it really worth being so petty? How come you can't take any loss at all?" I couldn't stand it anymore. The calm I had just regained on the plane was once again replaced by rising anger. Without even bothering to leave the station, I immediately sent a few long-planned messages to the group chat. I already informed everyone that I was returning to my hometown. If you're blind, don't blame others. The ingredients are all bought and laid out on the table. If you want to eat, make it yourself. With so many hands, are you all just waiting to be served? Also, this so-called birthday celebration wasn't something I begged you to organize. Don't use my birthday as an excuse to hold your Chin family gathering, with only me, the old maid, running around from start to finish. I'm a person, not your free nanny. After I sent my message, the group fell silent. A moment later, my phone suddenly started ringing frantically. I tapped to hang up, but the other end kept calling tirelessly. Annoyed beyond measure, I had just tapped to answer when my daughter's torrent of scolding came through the phone. "Mom, haven't you made enough of a scene this late at night? All right, we've already finished dinner, so hurry back. The house is a mess, and it's unbearable to look at. Oh, by the way, I specifically saved a piece of cake for you. Don't say I, as your daughter, don't have you in my thoughts every single day. You just blurt out whatever comes to mind in the group chat without thinking. It's just cooking a meal. Haven't you been doing it your whole life? Why act so sensitive about it today?" In the background, her son-in-law let out a light cough. The daughter paused briefly before continuing her grumbling. "I don't think I said anything wrong. You're just not as generous as my mother-in-law. You left a mess behind, and she decisively arranged for everyone to eat out." I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Ever since my daughter got married, she's been complaining about her mother-in-law's princess attitude, always pretending to be unwell when asked for help and reluctant to spend money with no help from the in-laws. I had no choice but to come from my hometown to help my daughter take care of the baby. She's been taking care of her from her postpartum confinement all the way until the child started kindergarten, and over all these years, her mother-in-law has helped look after the child for a total of less than 2 months. I calmly retorted, "Is that so? Well, if your mother-in-law is that good, then why don't you have her come to your house in the future to take care of the child and do the housework like a maid?" My daughter choked for a moment, then quickly blurted out, "Mom, why do you always bring up my mother-in-law? My mother-in-law has been accustomed to a life of ease all her life, spoiled by my father-in-law and husband, never having to lift a finger for any household chores. How could she possibly manage these tasks, unlike you, who has been diligent and strong-willed all your life, capable both inside and outside the home, and used to handling all these chores?" I couldn't listen any longer and interrupted her loudly. "Feng Yuan, do you even hear the nonsense you're spouting? What's the matter? Am I just supposed to be a worthless wretch? I'm supposed to raise you, put you through school, and after taking care of you, I have to serve your in-laws too?" The daughter was stunned by the question, stammering for a long time before finally spitting out, "Why do you have to put it so harshly? You raised me expecting me to take care of you in your old age too. It's a mutual thing. If you don't help me now when I'm struggling, why should I bother with you when you're old? Besides, you're living with us now, enjoying the big city's environment, healthcare, and leisure activities. So many people envy you, you know. Do you have any idea that just the secondary bedroom you're staying in would cost $3,000 a month to rent outside, not to mention you eat and drink at home? But we've never asked you to pay a single cent for living expenses." Even though I was already deeply disappointed and upset today, my heart sank even further to rock bottom. I couldn't believe it and sharply questioned her. "So, I help you take care of you, do the housework, serve your family of 3, and every month I cover your meal expenses and mortgage payments, which add up to more than $5,000, and you still think I should be paying you living expenses on top of that?" My daughter, feeling guilty, couldn't find the words to speak. After a long while, she finally managed to utter a complaint. "After all that beating around the bush, you just want to ask us for money. If you want money, just say it openly and honestly. Why pretend to be selfless and indifferent in front of the relatives all the time? If you insist on settling the accounts clearly, fine. Chinemo and I have discussed it. This family gathering was all to celebrate your birthday, so it's not appropriate for my mother-in-law to cover the expenses. First, apologize to my mother-in-law and the others, then transfer the meal money to her. The total cost for the dinner is 5,000 yuan. At that moment, I had just stepped out of the airport gate and was nearly startled by her words to the point of stumbling down the steps. "Feng Yuan, how can you have the nerve to even ask? I wasn't even present for this meal, didn't take a single bite, so why on earth should I foot the bill?" Without the slightest hesitation, my daughter shot back, "If it weren't for your birthday, and you refusing to cook and leaving the house in a mess, why would my mother-in-law have to spend so much money to take guests out to eat? Even though you weren't here, we packed up the leftovers for you. We're at work during the day and won't be home to eat, so you can at least have these dishes for the next 2 or 3 days. It was absolutely ridiculous." I almost laughed in anger. "Feng Yuan, don't treat your mother like a beggar, okay? Today is my birthday, and you've repeatedly made me angry and disappointed. I have nothing more to say to you. Officially notifying you once again, I have returned to Jiangqing and will never go back to Hangzhou in the future." Upon hearing this, my daughter instantly exploded. "Stop threatening to go back to your hometown all the time, okay? How annoying. If you go back, who will take you to school? Who will cook for the family? Who will do the housework?" I smiled faintly. "If there's anything, just ask your generous mother-in-law to help you. Your own mother is no longer of any use." After saying that, I ignored her roar and hung up the phone directly. Even after getting into the taxi, I still couldn't calm down. I never thought that after all these years of hardship, I would raise such an ungrateful child. It's truly heartbreaking. I remember my daughter wasn't like this before. From the time she was a tiny bundle nestled in my arms, growing into a graceful young woman, completing her studies, then working, marrying, and having children in the big city, she never really gave me much to worry about. When exactly did my daughter, whom I held in the palm of my hand, turn out like this? Was it a problem with my parenting, or had I never truly understood her? It was almost 10 o'clock when I finally arrived home in Jiangqing. No one had been back for a year, and the dust was thick. It took me a long time to clean up before I could finally lie down. The group chat was quiet. I absent-mindedly scrolled through my social feed and accidentally saw a post my daughter had shared just an hour ago. "A real family supports each other and never abandons you. Thank you to the best mother-in-law in the world, always our strongest support." A mother even closer than my own. The photo was a family portrait taken in a luxurious private room, with the whole extended family gathered together. My daughter was affectionately hugging her mother-in-law, with my granddaughter nestled between them. The harmony and closeness they shared made them seem more like a mother and daughter than I, her biological mother, ever did. The familiar scene suddenly triggered an involuntary flashback in my mind to last month, on her mother-in-law's birthday. That birthday celebration was exceptionally grand, and it left a particularly deep impression on me. A luxurious banquet hall with a table for 30, abalone, sea cucumber, shark fin, and fish maw, a 5-tiered cake, children and grandchildren filling the hall, and both guests and hosts thoroughly enjoying themselves, in addition to the large gold bracelet for her mother-in-law and the VIP European tour. My daughter also thoughtfully hired a professional photographer to document the entire trip. At that time, their family of 5 was neatly dressed in cheongsams and zhongshan suits, all wearing exquisite makeup, looking like a happy and harmonious family at first glance, while I, like an outsider passing by, had a bare face and wore ordinary clothes. No one informed me to wear a cheongsam, and even when I joined the group photo, I stood out awkwardly. A waiter mistook me for a nanny and asked me to step aside. No matter how bitter I felt inside, I never showed it, always thinking that as long as my daughter was doing well in her in-laws' home, that was enough. After all, I divorced her father when I was 30, and all these years, I've always felt I owed my daughter a complete family. That's why I've done everything possible to shower her with love, always putting her first out of habit. In this lifetime, I've endured, and when I couldn't bear it anymore, I gritted my teeth and endured it anyway. But today, that message in the group chat truly broke my heart. I can no longer keep deceiving myself, nor can I continue to endure being labeled as calculating, greedy, and cold-hearted by my own daughter after giving so much without expecting anything in return. After a long moment of stunned silence, I turned around and gave my daughter's WeChat post a like. After exiting WeChat, I suddenly remembered to send a message to the real estate agent. I withdrew the old family house I had previously asked him to list online, originally planning to sell it to buy a bigger house for my daughter. Since I, as her biological mother, am not good enough, I hope her mother-in-law, who is as close to her as a mother, can do better than a biological mother, serving and supporting their family wholeheartedly. I've come to understand, relying on children is not as reliable as relying on oneself. I must leave a way out for myself. After finishing this task and just about to shut down the computer to sleep, I suddenly received a call from an old neighbor. Her voice was deliberately lowered, but even through the phone waves, I could hear her excitement. Chirshia, you need to take down that apartment you listed online immediately. Don't sell it. Our neighborhood is going to be demolished. This is absolutely insider information, absolutely true. This incredible news truly shocked me. For a long time I tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep, crying one moment and laughing the next. The neighborhood we live in was built with funds raised by the school back in the day, located in the old city center as a school district property. They've been talking about demolition for years, but there was never any real movement. Who would have thought it would actually happen years ago? I had already planned in my heart that if the old house was demolished, I would use all the money to support my daughter, helping Yu buy a better school district property in Hangzhou. My daughter always complains that housing prices in the big city are too high, and our family isn't much help either. With just their salaries, they can't afford the school district house they want. But now that the demolition and relocation opportunity has finally come, I'm hesitating. I'm truly afraid that after giving everything to my daughter, she might not take care of me when I'm old. In a daze, I didn't fall asleep until daybreak, and by the time I woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. Opening my phone, I saw another flood of messages. Most of them were accusations from my daughter. Mom, you actually sulked so much that you didn't come back all night. You didn't wake Yu up this morning, so she overslept. We had to rush out without breakfast and ended up buying the junk food you usually don't let us eat just to get by. Mom, look at the mess you've made. Because of you, I was late dropping Yu off at kindergarten and then getting to work, and I got docked 100 yuan. Also, don't forget to pick Yu up at 2:30 this afternoon. By the way, Chinmo wants dumplings tonight. Remember to make 3 fillings, lamb, pork, and fresh shrimp. The 3 of us have different preferences. Oh, and most importantly, make sure to transfer the 5,000 yuan for the meal to my mother-in-law as soon as possible, even though she hasn't asked for it. We can't shamelessly act like we're not human. A whole bunch of nonsense, completely ruining my perfectly good morning mood. I only replied to her with one sentence: borrow the 100,000 yuan from you, return it to me within 3 days, or else other matters are off the table. After sending this message, the other side suddenly went quiet. I finally had a relaxing day. I made some of my favorite dishes, then took a stroll around the neighborhood to digest and caught up with old neighbors. In conversation, I realized that no one seemed to know about the demolition, thinking instead that I had returned this time to sell the old house so I could move to the big city for good and live with my daughter. I laughed it off, not letting a single hint slip, and only said that I missed my hometown. As we chatted, it reached 3 in the afternoon, and my phone suddenly started ringing urgently again. Mom, why didn't you go pick up Yu? Didn't I tell you she gets out of school at 2:30? Now the child is crying her eyes out. She's the only one left at the kindergarten. Do you have any sense of responsibility as a grandmother? You can be angry all you want, but can you joke about matters concerning the child? After my daughter finished lecturing me, I calmly replied, first, I already told you I went back to my hometown. Second, if the parents themselves lack responsibility, don't expect outsiders to step in. If that doesn't work, why not ask your mother-in-law to pick them up? Didn't you certify that she's better than your own mother? My daughter was so angry that it took her a long time to retort, Mom, how have you become like this? You're still making excuses for being lazy. What do you mean, going back to your hometown? The house there is almost sold. Where would you even live? You never used to be this unreasonable. How can you even ignore your own child now? Isn't it just because you think the birthday red envelope was too small? Fine, I'll make it up to you. If you want money, just say so. Stop putting on this awkward act. I still showed no emotional fluctuation and responded calmly, that's right, I want the money. I already said to return my 100,000 within 3 days, or else nothing else is up for discussion. Seeing that I wasn't joking, my daughter suddenly broke down and shouted at me, money, 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 that's all you care about, scheming against your own daughter. What do you need so much money for at your age? Are you planning to take it with you into the coffin or what? After venting, she immediately hung up the phone. I didn't feel any anger. I had already let it go from the moment I decided to come back. I had made up my mind not to soften my heart and turn back, but an hour later, I saw my daughter's latest update on my social media feed. It was a photo of her mother-in-law picking up Yu from school and bringing her home. The caption read, another day saved by grandma. Someone, remember, no one is indispensable, and everyone grows old. If you shirk your responsibilities now, don't cry when someone does the same to you someday. That really did feel like a threat over these years at my daughter's house. The 3 of them have been completely pampered. They never lift a finger for meals or laundry, and I even washed their underwear for them once. I was bedridden with a fever for 2 days, and they ordered takeout without even bothering to throw away the packaging. The trash sat there for 3 whole days, only cleared away after I recovered. Thinking about it carefully, I really wonder if I'll ever live to see the day she takes care of me. In the following days, my daughter didn't come to bother me. Besides posting on her social media about her mother-in-law taking care of the kids and cooking, she also praises how wonderful her mother-in-law is in the family group chat, without ever mentioning me once. Back when I worked hard at her place, she never once praised me. Instead, she complained about how the elderly's habits clashed with theirs, always finding them annoying. Now, I no longer have to worry about whether they order takeout for the kids or use phones as pacifiers, and I'm perfectly content with the peace and quiet. After returning to my hometown, I quickly adjusted my routine, no longer having to accommodate anyone else. Having lived here my whole life, I'm more accustomed to the environment. Although it's a small city, the weather is pleasant year-round, life is convenient, and I have many old friends, unlike in big cities, where I was stuck in a daily routine between the neighborhood, kindergarten, and market, busy as a spinning top, struggling with the language, and unable to make many friends to talk to. And now, every morning, I go singing with my old girlfriends, come home at noon to cook something simple I enjoy, take a nap, practice calligraphy at the senior university in the afternoon, and join the neighborhood neighbors for square dancing in the evening, leisurely and carefree, with no worries at all. So this is what retirement life is really like. I never want to go back to the days when I was constantly revolving around my daughter and her family, just when I thought my daughter was also angry and wouldn't reach out to me again. She called to ask where I had gone. My daughter deliberately said in a light tone, Mom, it's been a week already, you should have calmed down by now. Right, all right, at most I'll cover that 5,000 yuan meal for you. We can't let my mother-in-law think my own mom is stingy and loves taking advantage. When the call connected, I was at the morning market eating local snacks. My mouth was burning hot, and I had no time to chat with her. I swallowed a mouthful of steaming noodles and said impatiently, "Is that all? If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." Then I hung up directly, only then did it dawn on me. So my daughter still didn't believe I had actually returned to my hometown, thinking I had been staying in a cheap motel all this time. Come to think of it, it makes sense. Since I came back, I haven't posted anything on social media or visited any relatives, so they have no idea I'm back. My daughter, unwilling to give up after being hung up on, started sending passive-aggressive messages one after another in the family group chat. Honestly, my mother-in-law really has a way with kids. Yuyu has been making great progress every day lately, and she's so much more obedient now than when my own mom was taking care of her. My mother-in-law's cooking is actually quite delicious too. It's just that she was so pampered by my father-in-law before that she never had the chance to show off her skills. It's truly impressive, these remarks and photos. Ostensibly praising her mother-in-law but actually subtly criticizing me, quickly sparked discussions among the relatives in the group. "Oh, your mother-in-law is quite nice, but hasn't your own mother gone back yet? Chirshia, you're really too stubborn. How come you're getting even more headstrong as you get older? Third sister, you should go back soon. Your mother-in-law has been tired for so many days. You only care about having fun outside, but you should also think about the children." Exactly, young people nowadays are under a lot of pressure at work. You should help out a bit. I was so angry I could hardly contain myself. Although they were all relatives from my side of the family, most of them were like reeds swaying in the wind, always siding with whoever seemed stronger. The reason I stayed in my hometown for a week without visiting relatives or telling them was mainly to avoid those who like to smooth things over. I was afraid of being gossiped about by relatives, who would catch me and urge me to go back to help my daughter. And now, it's exactly as I feared. Back when I was still working at the unit, everyone respected me. Now that I'm retired, and my daughter has married into a big city and even landed a job in a state-owned enterprise, they've started to fawn over her. Fortunately, I've come to realize that at this age, there's no need to care so much about what others think. I'll live my life as I see fit. As for what kind of life Fanuaren can make for herself, that's entirely up to her own abilities. I have a pension, a place to live, and compensation from the demolition. I don't have to worry about my retirement in my later years. It's not necessarily a worse life than hers. I only posted a photo of my old neighborhood in the group chat, telling them I had returned to my hometown and that they should handle their own affairs. I didn't respond to anything else this time. My daughter didn't get angry, she just calmly replied, "It's fine." Yet she kept posting about her daily life with her mother-in-law on social media, sharing things like weekend trips, visits to trendy restaurants, and their close, almost sister-like relationship, as if deliberately trying to provoke me. Someone commented below, "You and your mother-in-law get along so well. I'm so jealous." She happily replied, "Yes, I'm incredibly lucky to have such an amazing mother-in-law. She's healed all the pain from my own family." Her mother-in-law even went and liked the post. On the surface, her life seemed vibrant and fulfilling, but how things truly were, only she herself knew. If her mother-in-law had really been that capable, she wouldn't have been crying and begging me to go help her back then. Sure enough, this peaceful and tranquil life didn't last long. One night, my daughter suddenly called me. As usual, she started with a flurry of loud exclamations. "Mom, why is your retirement card empty? Where's your pension? You made my mortgage payment late this month." I said dismissively, "Oh, I unlinked the retirement card. Since you keep saying I care about money, I figured you don't care about it either, so I won't be subsidizing you anymore." My daughter snapped back, "Chinemo and I only earn so much each month. After paying the car loan, mortgage, and covering daily expenses and raising the kids, how am I supposed to make ends meet?" I remained indifferent. "Didn't you say your own family couldn't help you much? You can just rely on your wonderful mother-in-law for support." My daughter cut me off. "Don't even mention Chinmo's mother. Since she moved in, she can't handle any household chores properly. All she does is buy groceries and pick up the kids, and on top of that, she asks Chinemo for an extra 3,000 yuan every month for household expenses. It's infuriating. Before, you only needed 1,500 for groceries, but now I don't know why she says 3,000 isn't even enough." I smiled. "Oh, then tell her to take less for household expenses. The mortgage will cover it." Back then, there was a foolish mother quietly subsidizing things, but now that's gone. "Of course it's not enough," she kept rambling, wanting to complain about something, as if she had even forgotten she was originally angry with me. I cut her off too. "I have to go to the senior university, so I won't talk to you for now. Don't bother me if there's nothing important." My daughter didn't say anything for a long time. Just as I was about to hang up, she quickly exclaimed in surprise, "Mom, what do you mean? Are you planning to stay there long term and not come back. Fine, since you're so heartless and don't want to come back to help, then just give money, relink your retirement card and give me 5,000 yuan a month as a subsidy from now on. I sneered and hung up without bothering to respond. Shortly after, her threatening message arrived on my phone. You have until today to link your salary card to mine. If you push things too far, don't blame me for cutting off all mother-daughter ties when you're old and need care. I had actually been conflicted before. After all, she's my only daughter. Even though I won't be going back, I had considered giving her a small portion once the demolition compensation came through. Now I've made up my mind completely. Even if I donate it all, I won't leave her a single cent. Without hesitation, I blocked her right back. After that, I enjoyed nearly a month of peace. Even joining the neighborhood senior dance troupe every day was fulfilling and joyful. Just when I thought things had already fallen apart to this extent and my daughter wouldn't bother me anymore, one day, while I was rehearsing with the dance troupe downstairs in the residential complex, four unexpected guests suddenly appeared not far away. My daughter and son-in-law had actually brought Yuyu, along with my daughter's mother-in-law, all the way to Jiangqing, before either side could even greet each other. My daughter looked at me and my dance partner with a strange expression in her eyes. Just as she was about to say something, my son-in-law suddenly nudged her, and her expression instantly turned into a smile. Mom, we've come to pick you up. I didn't want to pay her any mind, but Yuyu suddenly broke free from her grasp and ran toward me. Grandma, Yuyu missed you so much. Will you come back with Yuyu? I patted Yuyu's head and said nothing. After all, it's a child I raised from a young age. There's still affection in my heart, seeing everyone looking over. I didn't want to argue with them in public, so I had no choice but to bring everyone back home. As soon as we sat down at home, my daughter immediately took my arm and started pouring out her heart. Mom, you look really good now. It seems you had a great time and have let go of your anger, right? We came specifically to pick you up this time. I was wrong to treat you the way I did before, and I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I've realized my mistake, and I'm sorry, Mom. As she spoke, she kept an eye on my expression. Seeing that I remained calm and unresponsive, she continued with a coquettish tone, you have no idea how exhausted my mother-in-law and I have been these past few days since you left. Who would have thought Yo-Yo's kindergarten could be so troublesome? We have to pick her up multiple times a day, and there are all these duties like standing guard or cleaning up. How am I supposed to find the time for that? And my mother-in-law isn't in the best health either. Honestly, our family really can't do without you. My son-in-law also rarely smiled with a hint of genuine sincerity as he chimed in, that's right, Mom, just come back with us. I've already scolded you, Erin. She definitely won't say such things to you again. You know how she is, always speaking without thinking, never meaning any harm. My daughter's mother-in-law, Wang Shumi, also put on a somewhat ingratiating smile. Dear in-law, what kind of grudge can last between a mother and her own daughter? Don't hold on to your anger anymore. Besides, she's your only daughter. In the future, in the end, it's all because of my weak health. I can't do anything right, otherwise, I would have stepped up to help them both. Wang Shumi wiped away tears as she spoke. Seeing this, my daughter and son-in-law took the opportunity to continue persuading me. They talked until their mouths were dry and their throats parched, but I remained indifferent throughout. My daughter then nudged Yuyu. Yuyu smiled and presented a drawing. Grandma, this is my birthday gift for you. I stared blankly at the child's drawing, lost in thought. Yuyu still cares about her grandma, taking the time to draw a picture for her with her own hands. The child obediently handed me the drawing with both hands. I took it, gently touched her cheek, and for a moment, my emotions were so tangled I didn't know what to say. Good girl, thank you, Grandma. I had only been moved for a few seconds when Yuyu, thinking I was no longer angry, immediately boasted to her mother as if seeking credit, Mom, can you buy me the Elsa princess now? You said as long as Grandma forgives us, I can buy any toy I want, right? My daughter awkwardly scolded her. You silly child, Grandma hasn't agreed to come back with us yet. You should try to coax her a little more. Yuyu refused, pouting her little mouth. No, you said yourself that Grandma's money is all mine, and the house is mine too. Once we sell this house, you'll buy me a big one. Hearing this, the expressions of all three people present changed. The daughter slapped Yuyu's back. What nonsense are you talking, you little rascal? Yuyu immediately burst into tears. For a moment, the house was thrown into chaos. My daughter comforted me for a while, then awkwardly explained, Mom, don't listen to the child's nonsense. We came this time mainly to apologize and then take you back with us. Coincidentally, I have an old classmate who has taken a liking to this house and is willing to pay 200,000 $1,000 above the market price for it. This house has been on the market for years without anyone offering a satisfactory price. This time, you should agree, right? My heart sank. So that was their plan. Placing the painting on the table, I said coldly, I don't agree. I'm going to live in this house myself. It's not for sale, no matter how much money is offered. The three of them exchanged glances, and my daughter asked in confusion, Mom, wasn't it you who insisted on selling the house back? Then, why are you changing your mind now? You will start first grade next year. How can you bear to see her miss out on a good school? Without a moment's hesitation, I replied, if her own grandmother and parents can bear it, why should I, an old nanny, hesitate? Where would I live if we sold it? Would you let your mother wander the streets? My daughter looked exasperated. How could there be nowhere to stay? You can live with us peacefully. It's not like I'd kick you out, right? I gave her a sarcastic look. I wouldn't dare dream of such good fortune. Wouldn't that be taking advantage of you? Besides, 3,000 yuan for a subpar bedroom, I can't afford that. My daughter's face fell again. Mom, why are you bringing that up again? I've already apologized. What more do you want? Last time was just a heated exchange. Are you really going to hold a grudge? I replied coldly. It's not that I'm holding a grudge. I've just come to realize that living alone is quite nice. At least I won't be running around on my birthday without even getting a warm meal. Everyone was just trying to celebrate your birthday with good intentions. We bought so much food. It was you who didn't want to host everyone. We've always celebrated like this in the past. I don't know what got into you this year. My daughter said irritably. I retorted, oh, really? Then tell me, what gift have you prepared for me? And which dish on that menu is actually something I like? My daughter racked her brains for a long time before stammering, you always said you weren't picky about food, so why are you being picky now? As for the gift, I didn't prepare one because you always said not to waste money on you. As she spoke, she herself realized she was in the wrong, and her voice gradually trailed off. I opened the door and showed them out, saying, you can all leave now. I'm doing just fine here, and there's no need to visit me in the future. I don't need you to take care of me in my old age. The three of them froze in place, perhaps not expecting me to be so heartless. My daughter's expression crumbled, her voice filled with disbelief. Mom, what are you doing? Do you even know what you're saying? Oh, I get it now. That's why you weren't happy to see us back. I say, what's an old lady like you saving so much money for? Is it because of that old man you were dancing with just now? So you don't want us coming back to disturb your second spring, is that it? Have you been planning this all along, using your pension and the house to support that wretched old man? Slap. I couldn't hold back any longer and slapped my daughter across the face. I've never hit you since you were little, and that's my failure as a mother, spoiling you so much that you don't know how to show respect. My daughter covered her face, glaring at me with hatred. Bad grandma, dead grandma. I don't want this grandma. Seeing her mother being hit, you also rushed over and kept hitting me, each punch landing with force. Seeing this, my son-in-law didn't stop Yu, but only held my daughter to comfort her, his gaze toward me also filled with resentment. The neighbors, hearing the commotion outside, opened their doors one after another to see what was going on, and Wang Shumi wiped away her tears and stepped forward. Mother-in-law, what are you doing? Harmony in the family brings prosperity. If there's something to discuss, let's talk it out calmly. There's no need for violence. The children came with good intentions to take you back and let you enjoy a comfortable life. How can you just drive us out like this? Could it be that you really have someone else in mind? I retorted angrily. You can keep that comfortable life for yourself, especially since you're not in the best of health. I've been single for decades, and even if I were to find someone, I'd do it openly and reasonably. No one else has any right to interfere. My daughter screamed loudly. Fine, fine, I knew it. Since we're on the topic today, let's make things clear. If you can't stand the loneliness and want to mess around with some old man in a so-called twilight romance, I won't stand in your way, but you must first transfer the house to my name, or sell it outright and give me all the money. You leave with nothing. Otherwise, don't expect me to take care of you when you're old. Slap. As soon as she finished speaking, I struck the other side of her face with another heavy blow. This slap is to teach you a lesson for being heartless. Why should I leave with nothing? Have you forgotten that this house doesn't belong to your cheap father? It was built through my workplace's collective housing fund, and I took out the loan alone to buy it. My daughter froze for a moment, as if she had just remembered something, but unwilling to admit defeat, she blurted out, then why did you fight for me back then? If I had known you were so selfish, so indifferent even to your own daughter, and so calculating, you should have just let me stay with my dad. Slap. I slapped her again. I really shouldn't have fought for your custody back then. If I had known you'd be so ungrateful, I should have let your scumbag dad dump you at your grandma's in the countryside, finish junior high and go work in a factory, then get married and have kids by 18. My daughter was speechless. When I was 30, my ex-husband cheated and we divorced. I got no property. Not even a penny in alimony. I fought tooth and nail to secure custody of my daughter, scrimping and saving all these years to raise her. Who would have thought she'd turn out like this? My daughter covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. Fine, Fengqiuxia, if you regret having me, why did you give birth to me in the first place? Now you don't want to take care of me, and in the future when you're old, you'll sue me for support, right? There's no such good deal in this world. I promise I won't rely on you for support in my old age, and all the neighbors here can bear witness, I said to the onlookers around me. My daughter gritted her teeth and said, fine, then let's sever ties. From now on, your life, aging, sickness, and death have nothing to do with me. Feng Yueran, you can just live out your days in this shabby house of yours. I'll be waiting for the day you get swindled out of your home and end up on the streets. After saying this, my daughter stormed out in a rage. Then, Chinemo and Wang Shumi, who had been hesitant to speak, also left. Before going, all three of them shot me a hateful glance. My daughter was true to her word. Less than 15 minutes after she left, she posted a statement in her social media circle and all the groups we had in common. She declared that she was severing all ties with me and that we would have no further contact from now on. I couldn't have asked for more, and I was even worried she might change her mind. I specifically hired a lawyer and, based on her announcement, drafted a more legally formal statement to officially sever our relationship, and I asked a lawyer to help me draft a will, stating that after I pass away, all my assets will be donated to children in mountainous areas. Of course, I haven't forgotten the 100,000 yuan she took for her mother-in-law's birthday celebration. The rest can be considered what I owe her for giving birth to her, but this sum of money, I especially cannot tolerate. I urged her several times, but my daughter refused to return it, so I directly sent her another lawyer's letter, stating that if she doesn't repay it, I will immediately file a lawsuit. Chen Mo's promotion was at a critical moment, so he immediately borrowed money and transferred it to me. Because of this money, Feng Yueran used a burner account to send me a few more messages cursing me, and even went online to post about me. She said I was a selfish mother who not only failed to support my children but also lacked even basic familial affection. I had nothing to argue about this, so I simply posted her comments from the family group chat and the evidence of her subtle digs at me on her social media. Soon, there weren't many normal people left in the comments section supporting her. After more and more people criticized her, she had no choice but to sheepishly delete the post. However, I heard from relatives that Feng Yueran isn't doing well either. Her mother-in-law only played the role of a good mother-in-law for about a month. After returning from Jiangqing, she started pretending to be sick, refusing to take care of the child, let alone help with cooking or household chores. Her father-in-law hasn't retired yet and has to go to work every day, so he can't manage to help either. Helplessly, Feng Yueran had to hire a nanny to pick up the children and cook, while the two elderly parents helped keep an eye on the nanny. The whole family squeezed into a two-bedroom apartment, which was not only uncomfortable but also prone to conflicts, making every day chaotic and noisy. The hardest part to manage was still money. Both of them worked in the public sector, and their income was considered decent in a first-tier city. However, they insisted on showing off and keeping up appearances, gritting their teeth to take out a loan for a school district house, and Chen Mo even bought a car worth 400,000 yuan. Although Chen Mo's family were locals, they were just ordinary folks. His mother was a housewife with no income, and his father was an ordinary salaried worker, so their support was limited. Without my full financial support for my daughter, the nanny fee alone would cost over 8,000 a month, add in the mortgage and car loan, and it was simply suffocating. Within a year, I heard their funding chain had broken. They couldn't borrow money from anyone anymore and had no choice but to sell their house and move back into a smaller one. This time, they couldn't even afford a nanny, so the whole family pressured her mother-in-law to step in and handle the school runs and household chores. The house was filled with constant bickering and arguments, with mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts never ceasing. Feng Yueran's social media feed no longer showcased the once mother-daughter-like bond between her and her mother-in-law. Amid an already tight budget, Feng Yueran found herself pregnant with a second child. My mother-in-law didn't want to take care of her during her postpartum confinement, and actually advised her to have an abortion. She even said that since she had no mother to help out, they simply couldn't manage two children. Feng Yueran was so angry she almost had a miscarriage on the spot, but Chen Mo discussed it with his father, and they wanted to keep the child. Later, when they found out it was a boy, the whole family happily decided to keep him, but Yu wasn't happy. A child who grew up being doted on by the entire family, after being constantly fed wrong ideas by those around her, came to believe that her parents would no longer want her once they had a second child. So, taking advantage of her mother's inattention, she actually pushed her down the stairs. The key point is that when Feng Yueran fell down the stairs, she also dragged her mother-in-law down with her. Feng Yueran had a miscarriage, and her mother-in-law suffered a fracture. Yu was severely beaten, and from then on became even more willful and disobedient, making the household increasingly chaotic after her miscarriage. Feng Yueran's temperament changed drastically. She frequently hit the children, scolded the elderly, and blamed Chinemo for not earning enough money and failing to support the family. Chinemo often criticized Feng Yueran for being greedy and putting on airs, and for even driving away his own mother, leaving her without a single penny from the demolition compensation. Yes, shortly after the three of them left Jiangqing and the notice of severing family ties was announced, I received the official demolition notice. Although it's in an 18th-tier city, my house is in a prime location and is a well-established school district property. I accepted the developer's compensation offer of a small apartment plus 2 million yuan. I hadn't told my daughter about the demolition news, but with everyone in the family group chatting about it, she soon found out. At that time, she was in the midst of a financial crisis. When she learned about my demolition compensation, she fainted on the spot. After waking up, the entire family of 5 came to Jiangqing to beg me, carrying all sorts of bags and packages. However, they came 3 times in a row, and I wasn't home. I had gone on a trip with the Sunset Tour Group. On the 4th attempt, they finally managed to see me in the neighborhood, but I still ignored them. Feng Yueran wailed in front of me, and even Chinemo kept wiping away tears, calling me mom over and over, more affectionately than anyone else. Wang Shumi even shamelessly grabbed my hand and called me sister. I calmly distanced myself from them, took out the printed severance letter, and told them we were just strangers, not even relatives. No matter how much they pleaded, I didn't soften my heart in the slightest. Later, whenever they tried to find me again, it became very difficult for them. My best friend and I took the demolition compensation and traveled everywhere, living a nomadic life. Feng Yueran kept repenting in the family group chat and on social media, constantly praising me, and frequently sending me red envelopes of 520 or 1 or 2,000 yuan. I guess she thought that since I only have her as a daughter, I would eventually soften and come back to her. I wonder how she would react if she knew that I had already made my will long ago. Seeing that she refused to remove me from the family group, I left it myself. I told the relatives that if they had anything to discuss, they could just message me privately later on. Not long after Feng Yueran had a miscarriage with her second child, Chinemo couldn't handle the pressure and secretly found a new lover outside. They fought for a year or 2, but in the end, they still got divorced. Feng Yueran didn't want Yu, so Chinemo left Yu with his parents, moved up to rent a place, and started a new family with his new love. I heard that Feng Yueran came looking for me several times afterward, but I was always on the move, so she had to return empty-handed each time. Years passed in the blink of an eye, and I felt my life growing smoother and smoother. And the next time I ran into Feng Yueran was unexpectedly while waiting at a red light. She looked as if she had aged over a decade. She stared at me, seemingly wanting to come over and greet me, but she hesitated. I drove off swiftly, not giving her the chance. Everyone's path is chosen by themselves. I wonder if she regrets her past actions. If she had been less selfish and calculating back then, perhaps her life would be entirely different now. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My cousin had been childless for years until she went wild swimming and had an eel enter her body. Within 2 months, her belly swelled up, and you could even see fetal movements. I urged her to go to the hospital immediately, or the eel might burst out of her belly at any moment. But my cousin just cradled her belly, laughing cheerfully. What do you know? My son is born with divine strength. He can protect his mom even from inside the womb. Later, my cousin fainted at home, and I took her to the hospital. The doctor removed clusters of small eels from her uterus. Her uterus was severely infected, and she could never bear children again. She completely turned against me, stabbed me to death, and threw my body into the river to feed the eels. My son was cursed away by you. Go die. Even my own mother thought I was meddling in others' affairs and brought this upon myself, choosing to conceal the truth of my death from my cousin. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my cousin went wild swimming. Anna, let me tell you a secret. A few days ago, I got a folk remedy. If all goes well, I'll soon have a son. Once I have a son, your brother-in-law will finally settle down, and our family can live happily ever after. My days of hardship will finally be over. Opening my eyes, I saw my cousin Helen changing into a swimsuit, which grew increasingly sexy. As she put it on, 2 suspicious blushes also appeared on her face. Thinking of the good things about to happen, she blinked her big eyes excitedly. In my past life, Helen had also said these words to me with that same mysterious look on her face. Helen has been married to her brother-in-law David Cooper for many years, but they have never been able to conceive. Over the years, they've consulted countless doctors, And Helen has swallowed traditional Chinese medicine as routinely as meals, yet her belly remains silent. Although the Cooper family has no throne to inherit, over time, David began seeking affairs outside the marriage. Helen went crying to David's mother to complain, only to be met with a dismissive remark, "You're just a barren hen squatting in the outhouse without laying eggs. How dare you stop my son from finding someone who can?" Helpless, Helen became obsessed with all sorts of folk remedies this time. She even considered using eels to induce pregnancy. I earnestly advised her that such remedies have no scientific basis and that she should be cautious, but Helen, driven mad by her desire for a child, wouldn't listen to a word I said. On a moonlit night, she still went wild swimming with David in a river. She even scattered bait in the water to attract eels, hoping they would aid conception during their union. Over 2 months later, Helen came to me with a swollen belly, David trailing behind her with tea and water. Her face beamed with pride. "Anna, look, I'm really pregnant." That folk remedy worked wonders. While David went to fetch water, Helen leaned close to my ear with a shy expression and whispered softly, "That day, there was an eel. Honestly, that thing had such strong force. No wonder the effect is so good." I stared at her belly in disbelief. Only 2 months had passed, yet Helen's belly was now so large that she looked no different from a woman 6 months pregnant. But anyone with even a little knowledge of physiology would know that at this stage, the embryo is only the size of a grape and couldn't possibly cause the belly to swell to such an extent. The most terrifying part was that through Helen's clothes, upon closer inspection, one could faintly see something moving beneath her belly. I felt my scalp tingle with fear, but Helen clutched her stomach and laughed. "Honey Anna, look, the baby is kicking me inside. My son is amazing, born with divine strength. He'll definitely grow up to be a warm-hearted little man who can protect his mom." At a glance, I could tell this was no ordinary eel. It was the legendary man-eating eel. I grabbed Helen and urged her to go to the hospital immediately. There was no doubt the eel had made a nest in her stomach, and the man-eating eel naturally craves rotten flesh. It wouldn't be long before Helen would be hollowed out from the inside out, but Helen thought I was just jealous that she was pregnant with a son, and we parted on bad terms in the end. She collapsed at home. Just as I happened to drop by for a visit, I immediately took her to the hospital without a second thought. At first, the doctor thought she was pregnant and used an ultrasound machine to examine her, but there was no fetus on the screen. Instead, there were clusters of eels swimming around, intertwining with each other. The doctor immediately performed surgery, cutting open Helen's abdomen to remove the eels. The small eels were still alive when extracted, each as thick as a pinky finger, with some even developing sharp, fine teeth. The scene was so revolting that even the battle-hardened doctor found it nauseating. Upon examining Helen's uterus, it was already riddled with holes. The doctor said if we had arrived any later, the eels would have eaten Helen's uterus and infested her internal organs. When she woke up, Helen learned she not only hadn't conceived a child, but now she had lost her uterus too. She completely lost her mind. David, who rushed over in a panic, also blamed me. "If it weren't for your meddling little sister, our son wouldn't have died. Look at you now. Before, you just couldn't have children, but now you've even lost your uterus. Can you still call yourself a woman?" David became completely unrestrained, even bringing various women back home, flirting right in front of Helen. Helen couldn't take it anymore and rushed to my place, stabbing me over a dozen times. After I died, they threw me into that river teeming with eels. Watching my corpse being devoured bit by bit, Helen grinned hideously. "Anna, don't blame me. This is what you owe me. In my past life, I tried everything to stop her and even saved Helen's life, only to end up with a death where not even my whole body remained. This time, I decided to let go of my savior complex and respect others' fate. I'd like to see what happens when the eel finally bursts out of its belly. How would Helen react to thousands of good sons? Anna, tell me, is this method reliable? Should I give it a try?" She looked at me with anticipation, clearly hoping to hear a positive response from me. My mom, who was stewing chicken soup for Helen in the kitchen, also came over and stared at me eagerly. "That's right, Anna, you've read a lot. Tell your cousin whether this is reliable or not." Looking at the two of them with their forced smiles, I realized something after living a second life. People like Helen, who are quick to shift blame onto others, if I didn't answer carefully and something went wrong later, she would undoubtedly pin it on me. As for me, the biological mother, I adopted an attitude of out of sight, out of mind, so I suppressed my inner anger and replied solemnly, "Cousin, ultimately this is a matter between you and your husband. Have you asked him? What does he think?" Actually, there was no need to ask. It was obvious that someone like David, who thinks with his lower half, would definitely be willing. He might even be looking forward to the idea of skinny dipping with my cousin under the moonlight. Sure enough, when I mentioned David, Helen's face flushed even more with shyness. She murmured, "Your brother-in-law said it's not entirely out of the question as long as we can have a son, but," I interrupted her, "then that's settled, as long as the two of you have agreed. How important can my opinion as an outsider be? In my heart, nothing matters more than the two of you living happily together." Helen nodded in agreement, completely reassured. My mother also happily brought out the chicken soup, serving Helen a large bowl while giving me a warning glance. "Here, Helen, have some more." Helen managed to finish the entire pot of chicken soup, her mouth glistening with oil. Meanwhile, in my bowl, there was nothing but pickled vegetables and a few leftover pieces of zombie meat from yesterday. Helen took the tissue my mother handed her, wiped her mouth, and patted her still flat stomach, saying, "Oh dear, it's all Auntie's fault for being such a good cook. Look, I accidentally finished it all. It's all for your future little nephew. You don't mind, do you, Anna?" I shook my head cheerfully. "Of course not. I'm really looking forward to the day my little nephew is born too. No, of course I don't mind. Eat up. The more you eat, the more nourishment the eel will have when the time comes and a bunch of little eels with bared teeth are born. How can it not be considered as fulfilling the Cooper family's duty of continuing the lineage?" A few days later would be the night of the full moon on the 15th. Helen said that during this time, eels are at their most spiritual, even bowing to the moon in worship. Thus, the effect of aiding conception is also the strongest at this time. When the day arrived, David took Helen into the water. The two spread bait all around their bodies to attract eels. Before long, just like in their previous life, Helen felt something slippery brushing past her body. She felt a bit scared, but David found the situation incredibly thrilling. Even the work at hand seemed more energizing than usual. The last shred of reason in Helen's heart was shattered by David's behavior. With the help of the eel, the great mission of continuing the family line was accomplished. All of this I learned from my mother's phone calls with Helen. Every time she finished a call with Helen, my mother's complexion grew more radiant. Their attitude towards me also improved significantly. The truth was, Helen had been married for many years without conceiving, and both David and his mother were growing increasingly dissatisfied with her. Even when my mom went to visit Helen at their place, she received quite a few cold looks. Now that she could finally hold her head high, how could my mom not feel triumphant? In the days that followed, Helen and David went to work a few more times. Although it wasn't a full moon night, the effect was still quite remarkable. Before long, Helen began noticing unusual changes in her body. She became increasingly sleepy and prone to hunger, while her belly swelled up like a balloon. Seeing her in this state, the whole family thought she was pregnant and were overjoyed. Soon, Helen brought David to our house to share the good news with my mom. Looking at her round belly, my heart tightened. The scene was exactly the same as in my previous life. My mom held Helen's hand, showering her with warm concern, playing the role of a loving mother perfectly. But my mother was, after all, someone who had read a few books. Helen's belly, which was clearly disproportionate to the gestational age, also made my mother suspicious. She whispered to me strangely, "How could her belly be so big? Isn't this a bit abnormal? What do you think, Anna?" I was eating a peach and was somewhat speechless when my mother suddenly brought it up. In her past life, she was just like this, keeping her thoughts to herself and making me the bad guy by speaking up. But I didn't come back from rebirth for nothing. I immediately said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Mom, what are you saying? It's not easy for my sister and brother-in-law to finally have a child. If you can't be happy for them, at least don't say their child isn't normal. They're not kids anymore. Doesn't my sister know her own body best?" Sure enough, as soon as these words were spoken, both Helen and David's expressions changed. But perhaps remembering that my mother still had some use, Helen eventually forced a smile and explained to her, "Auntie, you don't understand. We consulted a master who said I'm likely carrying multiples, and the babies are very strong. I can already feel them kicking. These children are gifts from heaven." The master also advised against going to the hospital too early for checkups. "Those ultrasound machines have strong radiation, which isn't good for the babies. But don't worry, I know my own body, and the babies are perfectly healthy." Helen covered her belly with a sweet smile on her face. David also followed Helen around like an attendant, catering to her every need. When had such a harmonious scene ever occurred before? "That's right, Auntie, my mom also said prenatal checkups are just scams. Their generation never had any prenatal checkups, yet the babies they gave birth to are all perfectly healthy. Honestly, instead of wasting money at the hospital, we should save it for my eldest son's future wedding." Haha. Hearing the couple say so, my mother couldn't say much more. She immediately transferred another 20,000 yuan to Helen, telling her to buy some nourishing food and not to be stingy with the money. David left after dinner. He had a business trip for a week, so Helen stayed at our house under my mother's care. As Helen's appetite grew noticeably, a faint bluish-black hue began to show beneath her rosy complexion. I know that eels are frantically breeding inside her stomach. Thinking about this, I didn't dare to eat at home for several days in a row, always making excuses about working overtime to eat outside. Afraid that she might have some disease that could infect me. With me not at home, Helen could enjoy eating alone, and both of them were quite happy with the arrangement. But one day while I was working overtime, my mom called. Just as the call connected, my mom couldn't wait to say, "Anna, when are you coming back?" I checked the time, it wasn't even 10 yet. "There's so much work my boss assigned. I don't know when I'll finish." "What's up?" I heard my mom's voice start to tremble, as if she had experienced something truly terrifying. "Come back quickly. Your cousin isn't acting normal. I'm scared alone," I felt. Nothing inside. "Oh, nonsense. Would you be normal if you were pregnant with a belly full of eels?" My mom, acting all weird and mumbling, finally couldn't hold back a whimper from her throat. "Whoa, please come back quickly. I just woke up and saw your cousin. She was crouching in the kitchen eating meat." I scratched my ear, somewhat impatient. "Tisk, it's just meat, right? Is it really such a big deal? Can't she eat a few extra pieces of meat now that she's pregnant?" "No, your cousin was eating rotten meat. I took it out of the fridge last night to throw it away, and she turned around and started gnawing on it." "Tell me, is your cousin mutating or something?" By the time I got home again, it was already the next morning. Last night, I was afraid something might happen, so I spent the night in the office. Helen was sitting at the dining table, eating the breakfast my mom had prepared, but judging by the dishes and variety, it was clearly not as meticulously prepared as before. Helen didn't look too well either, and it was unclear if the food didn't suit her taste. She barely touched her chopsticks. My mother hid in the kitchen, dark circles under her eyes. Seeing me return, she grabbed my hand as if clutching a lifeline. "You wretched girl, you're finally back. I was so scared I couldn't sleep all night, you know." Unmoved, I forcefully pulled her hand away. "Mom, are you really getting old and talking nonsense? How could cousin, a normal person, eat rotten meat? Are you sure you didn't see it wrong?" My mother was so anxious she stomped her feet, almost swearing to the heavens. "Your mother isn't a fool. I saw it clearly. This morning when I got up and checked again, those pieces of rotten meat were gone. If she didn't eat them, do you think the meat grew legs and ran away on its own?" Eels love to eat rotten meat, so Helen, as the host, naturally developed this habit. Even if my mom didn't fully understand, she could guess that the so-called folk remedy was probably the problem. I couldn't help rolling my eyes at her. "You must have been dreaming. Look how normal cousin is now. Don't let her hear these things of yours, or she'll be upset." As I was about to leave, my mom grabbed me anxiously again. "No, I'm scared. I'm really scared. Maybe we should take her to the hospital. She's almost 3 months pregnant now and hasn't had a single prenatal checkup." "Oh my God, Mom, can you stop making trouble out of nothing? If you want to go, go yourself. I'm already swamped with work. By the way, our company is rushing a project these days. I have to work overtime every day, so I'll just stay at the office." I threw out these words and left the kitchen, completely ignoring my mom's pleas behind me. As I passed by Helen, a faint fishy stench wafted from her, making me nauseous, but I still managed to smile and greeted Helen warmly. "Cousin, how's the baby doing lately?" Helen looked exhausted, but perked up at the mention of her child. "The little one is quite mischievous. I can already tell he'll be a sweetheart when he's born, ready to protect his mom." My mother was sneaking around in the kitchen, and the occasional glances she stole were filled with sheer terror. "That's good. Before your brother-in-law returns, my mom will definitely take good care of you. Don't be shy. My mom is like your own mother. Just tell her whatever you want to eat or drink." Helen nodded at me gratefully. I chuckled inwardly. "Since you've always thought of me as the extra one, this time I'll give you two a chance to love each other properly." I wonder how Helen explained it to my mom. To my surprise, my mom accepted Helen's habit of eating rotten meat, and even started intentionally letting fresh raw meat spoil before giving it to Helen. My mom explained over the phone, "Hey, every pregnant woman has different cravings. When I was pregnant with you, I actually enjoyed the smell of gasoline. I guess I'm just overthinking things in my old age." I was dumbfounded, but all I could say was, "Respect and blessings." As Helen's belly gradually grew larger, her demand for rotten meat also increased, but Helen's mental state was getting worse. She often complained of pain here and there occasionally. There is also blood in the stool. The eels were wriggling around in her belly, and it was unclear where they might have bitten, but Helen didn't seem to care, saying she had looked it up online and found that hemorrhoids and blood in the stool during pregnancy were normal. Since she herself refused to go to the hospital, my mother couldn't say much more of that. day, I went home to grab some things and happened to run into David, who was returning from a business trip. As soon as I opened the front door, a strong, foul stench hit me in the face. David and I gagged repeatedly, nearly vomiting from the smell. Helen's belly had grown to an unbelievable size, and she wobbled unsteadily when walking, needing my mother's support. "Honey, you're finally back. Look how much our baby has grown these days." As she spoke, David covered his nose and didn't step forward. The smell on Helen now was about the same as hundreds of fish that had been dead for months. To be honest, it was enough to make your eyes water. Only my mom truly loves me. Still squinting her eyes to follow Helen around. "Honey, this isn't." Seeing David like this, Helen's eyes instantly welled up with tears. "What do you mean? Do you think I've gotten ugly because I gained weight during pregnancy? Are you disgusted with me?" "Wah." Helen spread her arms, and the scent grew even stronger. I quickly retreated outside the door. "Honey, I need a hug." David wanted to comfort her, but ultimately couldn't overcome the barrier in his heart. In her excitement, Helen's eyes rolled back and she fainted. In my past life, it was I who sent Helen to the hospital, saving her life, but this time, it was her dear husband who took her to seek medical help. I had intended to make an excuse to leave, but my mother grabbed my wrist. I had no choice but to go along. David was quite the character. He didn't take Helen to the hospital at all. Instead, he brought her to the master who had told them about the eel fertility remedy. The master was shocked to see Helen in such a state and learned that she had successfully conceived using the folk remedy he had recommended. Beads of cold sweat formed on the master's forehead, but he quickly composed himself, silently putting on a gas mask. He pretended to take Helen's pulse with great seriousness. "Nothing serious, but pregnant women shouldn't get too emotional. It could lead to premature birth. You must always take care of her emotional well-being, understand? As for this fishy smell, it's perfectly normal. After all, you used eels to induce pregnancy to conceive this child. Well, eels naturally have an earthy, fishy odor, which just proves that the pregnancy is stable and the method was effective." The expert wiped his sweat and continued spouting nonsense with a straight face. "Moreover, judging by the pulse, your wife is most likely carrying twins, a boy and a girl. Congratulations." Seeing that the expert had spoken, David and my mother were overjoyed. They could only wait for the twins to be born. David was so proud that he held his head high, believing it was all his doing. "Eels are hermaphroditic, aren't they, just like twins of both genders?" Seeing this, the expert prescribed Helen a lot of so-called pregnancy stabilizing medicine. When it came time to pay, David kept his hands in his pockets without making any move. My mother shot me a look, but I looked up at the clouds and birds, deliberately avoiding her gaze. In the end, it was my mom who dug into her own pocket to buy an expensive package of some unknown pregnancy-preserving medicine. Just then, Helen happened to wake up and showed no other signs of discomfort, so the group happily returned home. David wasn't used to staying at my place, so he simply packed my mom along and took her to his house, perfect for taking care of Helen. While packing, Helen glanced sideways at me and said, "Given my special condition, Auntie is coming to look after me. Anna won't mind, right?" I replied, "Come on, don't be like that. Like I said before, my mom is your mom too. We're family, no need to be so formal." While my mom was busy taking care of Helen and wouldn't be free for a while, I quickly contacted the real estate agent and listed my apartment online at a low rent. Tenant requirements: priority given to those with a history of mental illness or criminal records. Then I packed up my luggage and sent all my mom's personal belongings to Helen's house. I quickly moved into our company's staff dormitory. The dormitory is equipped with security guards, all young and strong guys with 8-pack abs. Living here is definitely better than staying in a place where the security guards are all 70-year-old grandpas. Helen only knew where I lived but had no idea which company I worked for. As for my mother, she was a slave to her younger brother, almost giving away the entire family fortune to him. Later, my uncle and aunt died unexpectedly in a car accident, leaving young Helen alone and helpless. My mother took it upon herself to bring Helen home to care for her. Whenever there was something delicious or fun, it was always given to Helen first. My mother said, "People should cherish family ties, otherwise what's the difference between them and animals?" So, in the year I graduated from university at the age of 22, my father couldn't take it anymore and filed for divorce. He left with almost nothing. The only property was put under my name, and all the savings were given to my mother. As for my mother, after divorcing my father, she became increasingly convinced that the He family couldn't be relied upon, and she found fault with everything about me. In the future, the issue of elderly care will have to be solved by her good niece. Even if I was killed by Helen in my past life, she wouldn't have cared, since she has already lost one daughter. She certainly can't afford to lose her niece as well. My mother knows perfectly well what she's doing, so the top priority is to make sure they can't find me. Who knows when Helen's belly full of eels might burst open. I need to stay far away when that happens. It's best to let those bitches tear each other apart. Don't go blaming me for this mess later. Just as I expected, my mom was the first to call. Anna, how dare you rent out the house without asking for my permission? Do you even respect me as your mother? I held the phone away from my ear, but my mom's yelling was still piercingly loud. Also, what kind of shady people are living in your place now? I just rang the doorbell twice, and some lunatic came charging out with a peeler, chasing me down over a dozen floors, swearing he was going to kill me. Hearing this, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. Good thing I had the foresight, but I couldn't say that in front of my mom, so I just feigned surprise and replied, no way. Don't overthink it. Young people these days are under a lot of pressure. Working 996 or even 007 is the norm. Maybe you just disturbed someone's sleep. Don't change the subject. I'm asking you why you rented out the place without discussing it with me. Now there's a psycho living there. Where am I supposed to stay? My mother was so angry she was huffing and puffing, but I pretended not to hear and casually said, because I'm poor. Your pension is all subsidizing my cousin, and you still ask me for living expenses every month if I don't rent out the house to earn some extra money. I'd have to live on air. After my father divorced her, she naturally started sucking me dry. Her pension is over $10,000 a month, most of which goes to Helen, and even that isn't enough. She wants to take my money too. If I so much as complain, she accuses me of being an ungrateful wretch who doesn't care about family. You family members are truly all cut from the same cloth. Nothing but selfish, petty people. Over the years, I've given Helen quite a bit of financial support to maintain family ties. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't be so foolish. Helen and my mother are nothing but ungrateful wolves that can't be tamed. On the other end of the phone, my mother was still incessantly complaining, yelling at me to go back and arrange accommodation for her. I said coldly, I remember when my cousin got married. You contributed at least half of the down payment for their house. Since you think I'm an ungrateful wretch, surely my cousins' family will treat you well. You can just go live with them. My mother didn't expect me to say that. In the past, I had always been obedient to her. This was the first time I had ever defied her wishes so directly. She fell silent for 2 seconds, then said smugly, of course, your cousin would never be as heartless as you. When she got married, she promised to always keep a room for me at home. I'm like her own mother. Since the house is already rented out, let it be, but you have to send the rent to your cousin. She can't work now that she's pregnant, and after the baby is born, diapers, formula, and everything else will cost money. As her aunt, you need to take responsibility. I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. My mom sure has some wishful thinking. Why should I? I'm not Helen's mother, and the baby isn't mine anyway. Anna, are you even listening to me? I replied perfunctorily, got it. Only after hearing my promise did my mom hang up the phone. Satisfied, after Helen returned home, she started texting me every other day. No matter if I'm working or not, they demand instant replies, and if I'm slightly delayed, the relentless phone calls start pouring in. Ever since Helen got married, she's devoted all her energy to David, leaving her with no friends around. That's why in the past life she would come to me for everything, leading me to suffer undeserved misfortunes. On this day, she messaged me again. I opened it and saw nothing but 60-second voice messages. I converted all the voice messages to text with one click. The gist of it was that David seems to have someone else on the side again. These past few days when he goes out, his outfits are carefully coordinated, and he even sprays perfume under his armpits. Helen sobbed pitifully and complained, he's such a scoundrel. I worked so hard to bear him a son, yet he still refuses to change his ways. Anna, tell me, is the filth outside really that tempting? Her crying gave me a headache. In my past life, I had advised her too. A man like David, with his despicable character, belongs in the trash. But what did Helen say in response? No, David used to be so good to me. I believe he didn't mean to do it. It must be those seductive women outside who tempted him, and it's all my fault. David's family has had only one male heir for 10 generations, and I still haven't been able to give him a son. If I were pregnant, he would surely settle down. But in the end, in her past life, Helen was tormented beyond recognition in her desperate attempts to get pregnant. After narrowly escaping death, David's first concern wasn't her health. He scorned her for losing her uterus, calling her an incomplete woman. At this point, Helen didn't dare to do anything to her dear husband, instead turning her anger toward me, who had always had her best interests at heart. Remembering the misery of my past life, I couldn't bring myself to feel any sympathy for Helen. Still, I gave Helen a good suggestion. Really, I thought your husband had been treating you quite well since you got pregnant, Helen sobbed and said. He's good, but that doesn't stop him from fooling around outside. Cousin, I have a question for you. What? Helen stopped crying and asked me curiously, how long has it been since you and your husband shared a bed? Helen paused for a moment, quickly grasping my meaning. You mean? But I read online that you can't do that during pregnancy, and lately I've been feeling weak all over, just not myself. I immediately cut her off, disapprovingly saying, that's where you're wrong. Your husband is a vigorous man in his prime. How could he possibly hold out for so long? Besides, you're already past the 3-month mark, and the pregnancy is stable by now. If you don't give it to him, you can't blame him for looking elsewhere. Helen suddenly saw the light and promptly said, I understand now. Thank you, Anna. I knew you had my best interests at heart. Of course I'll be good to you, whether it's you, David, or even my mom. None of you can escape. Late at night, I was awakened again by my mom's phone call. Anna, come to the hospital quickly. Your cousin is about to give birth. I calculated the time. Helen is only less than 4 months pregnant now. What does this count as? Premature birth or a miscarriage? Helen has never had a prenatal checkup since becoming pregnant, and I wonder how the attending doctor will react upon seeing a belly full of little eels. It would probably leave psychological scars. I thought about it for a long time. This historic moment was something I couldn't miss. I was also very curious to see with my own eyes what had become of Helen's belly now that I hadn't stepped in to save her. When I arrived at the hospital, my mom and David were pacing outside the delivery room, looking very anxious. I rushed over quickly in faint concern, asking, what happened? How could cousin suddenly go into premature labor? At the mention of this, my mother's face quickly darkened. David was still wearing his pajamas, and upon closer inspection, the hem of his clothes was dotted with small bloodstains. He rubbed his hands awkwardly. Helen and I were, doing that thing at night when she suddenly cried out in pain, saying she felt like she was going into labor. I rushed her here immediately. I see, it seems Helen really took my words to heart that day, but now the eel inside her was already nearing maturity and could burst out at any moment. Stirring things up at this point only accelerated the eel's birth timing. Since Helen had never undergone any prenatal checkups since becoming pregnant, the doctors had no choice but to wheel her into the delivery room immediately, conducting examinations while she gave birth. My mother kept praying beside me, may Guanyin Bodhisattva bless our Helen to safely deliver the baby. To pass the time, David struck up a conversation with the family of the woman in labor next door. Bro, is your family expecting a boy or a girl? Did you get an ultrasound? The family member next door looked puzzled but still replied politely, no. What's the point of that? Whether it's a boy or a girl, it's our own flesh and blood. We'll love them just the same. However, both my wife and I prefer daughters. It would be even better if it were a girl. But David clearly didn't catch the implied meaning in the other person's words. He proudly said, my wife is carrying a big son, and it's twins, a boy and a girl. To be honest, how can a daughter compared to a son? Raising a girl at home is just a waste of food. Bro, you must be joking when you say you prefer daughters, but it's fine. After all, few men are as strong as me. Haha. As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding family members looked at David as if he were an idiot. I also consciously stepped back a few meters. What bad luck. After a while, the door to the delivery room suddenly swung open. Doctors and nurses rushed out pushing the laboring women, as if some monster were chasing them from behind. The family member who had just been talking to David spotted his wife and hurried forward to ask what was wrong. His wife's face turned pale, her lips trembling uncontrollably. She tightly gripped her husband's hand and shouted, hurry, run, there's a woman inside who just gave birth to a bunch of eels. Those eels are biting people. So many nurses have been bitten. Helen entered the delivery room with her 10-month pregnant belly. At first, the doctors and nurses thought she had avoided prenatal checkups either due to poor family conditions or out of ignorance and outdated beliefs. When they noticed the foul odor on Helen, they assumed it was due to poor hygiene during pregnancy leading to gynecological issues. Seeing her screaming in pain, they thought the baby was about to arrive at any moment. The doctors prepared for the delivery while calling for an ultrasound machine to be brought to the delivery room for examination. As soon as the doctor's hand entered Helen's body, she trembled in excruciating pain. Biting her lip, she cried out, I can't hold it anymore. Everyone present assumed she meant she couldn't hold the baby in any longer. Who would have thought that in an instant, countless tiny eels came swarming out from her lower body. The doctor standing closest to her suffered the worst. As several eels lunged straight at his face, everyone was stunned for a moment, and soon the delivery room descended into chaos, filled with screams And cries of terror, more and more eels kept pouring out from beneath Helen, slithering down the delivery bed one after another, quickly covering the entire delivery room. Helen's face grew increasingly pale, devoid of any trace of color, her entire body convulsing uncontrollably on the delivery bed. Even in this state, she kept murmuring, "A son, I've given birth to a son." This was the scene that greeted us when we entered the delivery room. Seeing David walk in, Helen raised her hand and said excitedly, "Honey, look, I've given you so many sons, come, hold them." Haha, my mother, after all, was too old to handle the shock and fainted on the spot, her eyes rolling back. The moment she collapsed, countless eels swarmed over, instantly covering her entire body. David was so scared he pissed himself. "Ah, a monster," he screamed and ran out. Helen weakly dropped her hand, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Already on the verge of death, soon, a large group of doctors in protective suits rushed and conducted a comprehensive disinfection of the eels on the floor, delivery bed, and ceiling. My mother and Helen were carried out by the doctors for emergency treatment. Shortly after Helen entered the operating room, the doctor came out shaking his head. Sigh. The patient's body was almost entirely gnawed by those strange eels, leaving her insides nearly hollow. As for her child, it was completely devoured by those monsters long ago, with only a small piece of placenta remaining. Sigh. I don't know what's been keeping her going for so long. I froze for a few seconds, afraid I might have misheard. What child? The doctor gave me a strange look. Didn't you know the patient is pregnant? She's about 4 months along by gestational age. It turned out, Helen had indeed been pregnant. The doctor said there was no need to continue resuscitation efforts for Helen, and allowed me in to say my final goodbye. Helen lay motionless on the hospital bed. The moment she saw me, her eyes suddenly filled with hatred, coiling around me like a venomous snake. She spat viciously. "Anna, you bitch, why am I still being ruined by you even after getting a second chance? Give me back my son." It seems Helen has regained memories from her past life. Without a doubt, if she still had any strength left, she would surely rush to kill me just like in her past life. Unfortunately, Helen used the most vicious words to insult me. As for me, I only gave her one truth. "Helen, did you know, you were originally pregnant? If you hadn't used that folk remedy, your child would have been born safely." What? Helen froze in place. She frantically waved her hands, wanting me to give her an explanation, but she had no time left. In her final moments, her eyes were filled with endless regret. "Helen is dead. My mother had a stroke from that fall. For the rest of her life, she'll have to rely on others for even the most basic needs." Naturally, I had no time to take care of her, so I used her pension to put her in a nursing home. However, that nursing home seems to have a bad reputation, with frequent news reports of caregivers abusing the elderly. I specifically instructed the caregiver that since I'm usually too busy with work to visit, I hope he would take good care of my mother. I haven't seen David since the day he fled from the operating room in fear. I suppose he doesn't have the courage to come looking for me again. I saw him again on a short video platform. Someone revealed that her long-term boyfriend had recently developed some strange condition, suddenly biting her during intimacy. He literally bit off a chunk of flesh from her chest. Now the man has fled. She posted it to raise awareness, warning everyone to stay away from this person if they encounter him on the street. The video was quickly reported and taken down, but I recognized him instantly. It was David. It seems he was also infected by the virus carried by the eel. Later, the doctor told me that eels have an extremely strong reproductive ability and carry a special virus that can parasitize the human body. However, the specific problems this virus might cause to humans are still unknown. As work became increasingly busy, I stopped paying attention to the matter until one late night 3 months later I received a phone call, and the caller ID showed David. However, when the call connected, a high-pitched female voice came from the other end. She screamed in despair and desperation, "Help me, I'm David, I've fucking turned into a woman." After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My husband went hiking and camping with his female buddy. His female buddy picked mushrooms to make soup, but I stopped him from drinking it. Later, his female buddy died from poisoning. He held me in his arms, kissed me with lingering fear, and thanked me for saving his life, yet he poisoned me at the happiest moment of my pregnancy. Tina was already carrying my child when she went mushroom picking. If you hadn't stopped me, I would never have let anything happen to her. You and your child will pay with your lives. Clutching my stomach, I collapsed in agony with regret and resentment. I closed my eyes forever. Opening my eyes again, I saw the soup handed to me by his female friend. "I won't stop you anymore." I was reborn on the day of the hiking and camping trip with my husband Bob and his group. "Honey, just hang in There a little longer, we're almost there. I couldn't help but tremble at the sound of Bob's voice, and only by feeling the stifling air around me did I gain a tangible sense of rebirth. I've never been fond of exercise, and hiking is practically the death of me. Bob enjoys activities like fitness and sea fishing, but he doesn't go hiking or camping much. To fit into my husband's circle, I forced myself to tag along. In his previous life, his female friend Tina picked mushrooms to make soup, and I stopped him from drinking it, fearing it might be poisonous. After coming down the mountain, he received news that his friends had been poisoned. Tina, who ate the most, didn't survive. He held me tightly, still shaken, thanking me for persuading him and saving his life. From then on, he treated me even better. The moment I found out I was pregnant, I felt like the happiest person in the world. I couldn't wait to share this news with Bob, imagining how excited he would be when I got home and saw him smiling as he brought me a bowl of soup. I drank it without a second thought. That night, when the poison took effect, I begged him to save me and the baby in my womb, but he snarled at me in rage. If it weren't for you stopping me, Tina would never have died. She was carrying my child when she died. It was worth all my effort to get you pregnant. You and your child deserve to die in her place. After marriage, he said that women suffer during childbirth and couldn't bear to see me in pain. Speaking with such sincerity, I personally love children, but hearing him say that, I still agreed to be a dink. Double income, no kids. Couple with him recently, he suddenly said he wanted a child. I thought he had changed his mind, but who would have guessed he intended to crush my heart? He struck me down at the happiest moment of my life. Thinking of this, I coldly spoke up. How far have we climbed now? Seeing how serious my question was, Bob took out the map to check. We're about 5 kilometers away from reaching it. Glancing at the time, I dismissed the idea of descending the mountain alone. It was too late to turn back now. Bob finished speaking and reached out as if to take my backpack. Tina blocked him with a glare. Oh, so you're feeling protective now, huh? We all climbed up here together, and you only care about your wife, not your buddies. Not that I'm saying your wife isn't cut out for hiking, but why bring her along just to suffer? As soon as she finished, the people around burst into teasing laughter. Bob's with us, bro, what's the missus got to worry about? Then they glanced at Tina again. Don't treat Tina like a woman, sis, she's just one of the guys, a real bro to all of us. Tina immediately punched the guy. Huh, what great buddies, carrying your bro's baby in your arms. In my past life, I was constantly mocked by her with veiled sarcasm, not daring to show any weakness right now. I can't be bothered with all that. I took off my backpack and threw it straight into Bob's arms. He's still my husband for now, so what if I order him around? Anyway, I've made up my mind. After we get down this mountain, I'll either be widowed or divorced. The people around me stopped talking when they saw I was genuinely angry. Tina followed behind, panting with anger. They had only gone boat fishing before, and their camping trips were always in developed scenic areas. This time, our destination was deep in the remote mountains with no signal. I thought they were all experienced and somewhat professional, who knew they just casually put together a group without doing much preparation. I could feel the air becoming increasingly humid. I walked faster and faster. Others also sensed the changing weather. It's not going to rain, is it? Tina didn't seem concerned. It's fine, I brought a raincoat. Let's not wander around. We should find a spot to set up the tent. The others quickly agreed, and Bob called me over to help. I glanced at the dark, cloud-covered sky and snorted coldly. Are you sure you can set up the tent before it rains? I think I'll find somewhere else to take shelter. With that, I took back my backpack and prepared to keep walking. Kathy, Bob tried to call me back, but Tina held him back. Bob, it's about to rain. We need to set up the tent quickly. I think your wife is probably mad at me, usually so carefree and bold in front of them. Now he was saying these words with reddened eyes, looking utterly pitiful. Immediately, they felt a surge of protective sympathy for him. Ma'am, please come with us. Hey, sister-in-law, if you can't help, at least don't make things worse. Bob's face darkened upon hearing this. With a grim expression, he said unhappily, just leave her be. If words won't persuade her, let experience teach her. She'll come back when she's thoroughly drenched. Tina also seemed pleased with their attitude and provocatively raised an eyebrow at me. Once we set up the tent, you'll come begging to us. I'm utterly speechless. Just these bunch of amateurs. In my previous life, I listened to them and set up a tent here, but when the heavy rain came, none of them could do it properly. In the end, soaked to the bone, I managed to set up a tent by following the tutorial I learned before going up the mountain. My little tent couldn't accommodate so many people. They hid in my tent and ordered me to keep setting it up. Later, the tent couldn't withstand the heavy rain and started leaking, and they kept blaming me for the poorly pitched tent I had to search for shelter in the pouring rain. After returning, I even developed pneumonia and was hospitalized for a long time. This time I really have to get out of here quickly, without me around. Let's see who you'll blame now. Following my memory, I found the shelter where I took refuge from the rain in my previous life. To call it a shelter is a bit of an exaggeration. It's just a very old small hut. But it did protect us from the sudden downpour, so I stayed here peacefully, waiting for the storm to pass before descending the mountain. This time, unlike the wretchedness of my previous life, I laid out my sleeping bag and took out water and food to replenish my energy. Soon, a bolt of lightning split the sky, followed by rolling thunder and a downpour. I stretched lazily and sighed. This kind of weather was perfect for sleep. I drifted off into a hazy slumber. I was soon awakened by the noise outside the door. I craned my neck to look out. I could barely suppress the smile on my face. Wasn't that my nearly dead husband and his entourage, drenched to the point where even their own mothers wouldn't recognize them? Their raincoats were now tattered and torn, with Bob even using a sleeping bag to shield both himself and Tina from the rain. The group pushed open the door and stumbled in, looking utterly disheveled, completely unaware of my presence in the corner. Once inside, they busied themselves with unpacking. As Bob thoughtfully pulled out a towel to dry Tina's hair, Tina scolded a friend beside her for being slow and wasting time. The others then complained that she had brought too few supplies. As this small group was busy blaming each other, they finally noticed me occupying the best spot. Tina immediately pointed at me angrily. "Kathy, how could you? You found shelter from the rain but didn't call us, while we were worried sick about you. Did you come looking for me? Did you even try?" I turned my gaze back to Bob. "What about you? Did you look for me? Aren't we married now? Aren't you worried I might get lost alone?" The two of them were instantly speechless, seeing them at a loss. The others stepped in to mediate. "We were just about to finish setting up the tent and come look for you. Don't be angry, sis. The lesson from my past life is clear. If you tolerate it once, others will bully you for a lifetime." Watching these people shift the conflict onto me, I raised my eyebrows sarcastically. "So, have you set up your tents yet? Weren't you supposed to be waiting for me to come begging?" Bob put down his things unhappily. "Tina is right. You're being petty. Can't you take a joke?" Tina crossed her arms. "This house isn't yours either. We found it too." Why the passive-aggressive tone? The others glared at me with hostility. By now, the sky had completely darkened, and the temperature difference between day and night in the mountains was significant. The group of them were shivering, their clothes soaked and dripping. Some had already started changing into spare clothes they'd brought, doing so in the corners, perhaps in their haste to flee. Tina, who was being supported by Bob, hadn't been carrying her backpack. It must have been left behind at the campsite. Her face was wet with rain, and her long hair was still dripping. Staggering unsteadily, she looked truly pitiful. A flicker of sympathy passed through Bob's eyes as he glanced at me curled up in the sleeping bag. Lowering his voice, he said, "You have clothes in your bag, right? Lend them." In the sleeping bag to Tina. I ignored their expectant looks of approval, astonished by their audacity. "What about me?" Bob's eyes darted around. "You could sleep with me. What nerve? Didn't you use your sleeping bag to shield Tina from the rain?" "I can't be bothered to argue with you. I didn't bring extra clothes, and I'm not lending my sleeping bag." The group had been exhausted from the early morning until now, and they no longer had the energy to banter with me. Seeing my firm stance, a few of them tried squeezing into the remaining sleeping bags, leaving one last one which Bob gave to Tina. He then lent his own clothes to her as well. He took off his coat. Fortunately, the clothes underneath weren't too wet. Angry, he ignored me and wrapped himself in a blanket to sleep, perfectly suited to my wishes. Early the next morning, we prepared to descend the mountain. Unlike my refreshed and energetic state, several of them had already fallen ill after getting caught in the rain. Bob's voice was also somewhat hoarse. This prompted Tina to fuss over him for quite a while, as if deliberately trying to provoke me. His responses to Tina were much more enthusiastic than usual. I no longer bothered to conceal the disdain in my eyes. Everyone woke up starving, but we didn't have enough prepared ingredients. Most of the food was in Tina's backpack. Since her backpack wasn't brought over, we had to make do with what we had. At least we had the stove and small pot. Tina patted her chest and promised she'd make sure everyone got something to eat. Luckily, I still had 2 pieces of compressed biscuits. I wouldn't dare eat anything she cooked. Soon, Tina proudly called out to everyone, "All right, come and taste my cooking." I glanced at the soup she handed to Bob. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. "Isn't this the poisonous mushroom soup from the previous life?" I watched as Bob took the soup. With a slight smile, he asked dotingly, "Where did you pick these mushrooms?" Tina sat close to him and served herself A bowl as well, picked them from the woods nearby. What, are you scared? Seeing everyone hesitating to speak, she burst into laughter. Don't worry, I used to go mushroom picking before, the brightly colored ones that change color when cut are poisonous, but this is just an ordinary mushroom. After dispelling everyone's doubts, she began serving mushroom soup to each person. There was still some left in the pot, and I quickly said I had already eaten. Seeing that I was being tactful, she didn't snap at me and served herself and Bob another bowl. Bob, drink more hot soup to recover faster from your cold. Noticing this, he made a veiled remark. The soup is delicious. Truly, time reveals a person's heart. It's in times of crisis that you see who genuinely cares for you. Hearing this, Tina's eyes instantly welled up with emotion, and she couldn't suppress the corners of her mouth from curling upward. The others exchanged knowing glances at the two of them, and I just watched her and Bob sip their mushroom soup spoon by spoon. TSK, TSK, TSK. If it's delicious, then drink more. Once we're all packed up, we'll get ready to descend the mountain. The way down isn't easy, especially after the heavy rain when the path turns muddy, with some trees fallen right across the middle of the trail. Seeing this situation, everyone had a disagreement. The original path was steeper but would take less time. The other path was flatter but doubled the distance in the previous life. Except for me, who got drenched the most and fell the sickest, almost. Everyone else could grit their teeth and endure, so they all chose the relatively safer, flatter path. Tina had been exhausted all day yesterday and just wanted to get down the mountain early, thinking the rain had stopped and it was no big deal. She insisted on taking the same path back and dragged Bob along. Then you two go back the same way. I'll take the other path myself. Bob thought I was being stubborn. Kathy, now is not the time for your tantrums. Can't you be more sensible? That path is so steep, who knows what's there? I'm not taking it, no matter what. One of them chimed in when they heard me say that. Bob, James and I will stick with sis-in-law. We'll meet up at Broken Stone Cliff later. Broken Stone Cliff is the intersection point of two paths, merging into a single trail leading down the mountain. Our journey went surprisingly smoothly this time, likely because I wasn't weakened by illness and slowing the group down. We actually arrived earlier than we had in my previous life. We didn't see Bob and the others when we arrived. It seems they really ran into trouble. I had planned to go straight down, but these two insisted on waiting for them, and honestly, I was running out of energy too, had no choice but to sit down and rest. James suddenly stood up and spoke alertly. Did you hear that sound? We quickly listened carefully. There really was crying coming from nearby, and upon closer listening, we confirmed it was coming from the path Bob had chosen to descend the mountain. We followed the sound and walked a short distance before spotting a figure. Tina collapsed to the ground, wailing loudly. The remaining people frantically dug through the soil nearby. Upon closer inspection, they realized Bob was buried in the dirt. It turned out they had encountered numerous falling rocks along the way, leaving them both shocked and terrified. Several times when others wanted to turn back and take the path we had chosen, Tina and Bob persuaded them to continue, saying we were already halfway there and there might be nothing ahead. It wouldn't be worth dragging their sick bodies back and forth. Just as they were stumbling along, almost reaching Broken Stone Cliff, a small landslide suddenly occurred. Bob pushed Tina away but ended up buried in the dirt himself. Fortunately, the upper half of his body wasn't buried too deep. A few people quickly dug around and saw most of his body was still above ground, so they tried to pull him out, but as soon as they pulled, he cried out in pain. His foot was tightly pinned by several large rocks in a sunken part of the ground, making it impossible to move. I really shouldn't be too cold, so I stepped forward several times to pull him up. All I got in return was his wailing. Just as I was about to approach him again, I was finally stopped, panting heavily. Bob asked, "Where's Tina? Is Tina okay?" Only then did we notice the various scrapes and bruises on Tina's body. One ankle was already swollen and deformed, looking particularly horrifying. James couldn't bear it anymore. Don't worry about others right now. This place is too dangerous. It could collapse at any moment. I feel like I have a fever and don't have the strength to go down the mountain now. Those who still feel physically capable should go down first to get help. His suggestion was supported by everyone, but counting me, only 3 of us were still able to keep going. Tina grabbed someone's arm as we were about to leave, tears streaming down her face like raindrops on pear blossoms. She pleaded, "I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place. Take me with you." The man clearly hesitated, looking troubled. Not wanting to waste time, I took a deep breath and said, "Tina, look at your own feet. Can you even walk? By the time you reach the foot of the mountain, your feet will be ruined." The crowd also began to persuade her. Seeing everyone like this, Tina glanced at the dark clouds gathering in the sky and suddenly erupted. I Already said I don't want to stay in this damn place. Can't you understand human speech? If I can't walk, can't the three of you carry me down? If it starts pouring again, how can I get soaked with all these wounds on me? I must have had the worst luck in 8 lifetimes, ending up with you useless lot on this mountain and getting my leg injured. This outburst completely shattered the image everyone had of her. Even Bob, lying face down in the dirt pile, frowned. I can't carry you. If you want to go down the mountain, do it yourself. The remaining 2 were so afraid she'd latch onto them that they abandoned their backpacks and fled. By the time we reached an area with signal, an hour had already passed. Exhausted and gasping for breath, we collapsed on the ground, unwilling to take another step as we waited for rescue. When help arrived, one team escorted us down the mountain while another went up to rescue those still stranded. We sat in the rescue vehicle at the foot of the mountain, and the medical staff came forward to check that we were unharmed. The others were brought down one after another. There was still no sign of Tina and Bob. James told us what had happened. After we left, Tina had an emotional breakdown. Bob tried to comfort her, but she said many hurtful things, and the 2 of them nearly had a falling out. When the rescue team arrived, they carried Tina down the mountain. James and the others, having rested and regained some strength, walked down on their own and arrived a bit earlier. Sis-in-law, don't overthink it. From what I can see, those 2 have had a falling out. You and Bob should just focus on living your lives well. I snorted coldly. You're quick to call me sis-in-law when you need something. Don't think I don't know you never really cared about me. I've seen through it all now, and our family matters are none of your business. I was initially captivated by Bob's face and abs. After marriage, he kept hanging out with his bros all the time. I thought he valued brotherhood, but turns out one of those bros was actually a woman. My parents are quite traditional and constantly drilled into me the virtues of being a virtuous wife and loving mother. As a result, I always felt insecure around him. Looking back now, my family background was far superior to his, and I had already worked my way up to a managerial position at a young age in the company. What do I have to feel inferior about? Despite his contempt, even after helping his so-called friends all these years, I still haven't been accepted by them. Thinking about it, I'm ridiculous for wasting my time on these scumbags. Wait until the 2 of them are sent down the mountain. Bob's legs were covered in bright red patches mixed with sand and mud. As a family member, I followed along to the hospital. Those few people thought everything would be fine once they reached the hospital and waited for treatment. Little did they know, the mushroom soup they drank was starting to take effect. They started vomiting one after another, feeling utterly miserable. Diagnosed as mushroom poisoning, they were fine after stomach pumping in the emergency room. Tina and Bob, who drank the most, are now experiencing abdominal pain, and their condition is more critical. Since almost no one here gathers mushrooms for food, the hospital isn't very experienced in treating such cases. The doctor spoke with difficulty. Both patients are in critical condition right now, but we only have 1 dose of the antidote left. We'll need to administer it to the man first since his condition is more severe. The woman will have to wait until more medication arrives. His words left everyone in silence. On the way to the hospital, it was clear that the 2 of them were indeed ignoring each other, just as James had said. I glanced briefly at Tina. She was sobbing softly, saying she was in so much pain. It truly tugged at my heartstrings. I glanced over and said, "Honey, look, Tina seems to be in really bad shape. What should we do? Does the doctor really have to prioritize the more severe cases for medication first?" The medical staff explained while treating her. "That's the principle, but don't worry, the medicine will arrive soon, and we'll handle the initial care in the meantime." A wail came from Tina's side as the doctor was putting a cast on her foot. When her fine sweat had eased a bit, she looked up at Bob. Tears welled up in her eyes. On the verge of falling, she must have been truly terrified. "Bob, I was just scared on the mountain and ended up saying a lot of things I didn't mean. Don't take it to heart. Could you let me have that medicine first? The doctor said more will be available soon." Bob looked at me with a troubled expression. "I don't have a problem with it, but I am Kathy's husband after all. She probably wouldn't agree. They really are good brothers, always pushing things onto me. I'm not going to be the bad guy here." "Honey, I think Tina isn't feeling well either. She was planning to go to the hospital just the other day. Remember, maybe we should let her have it. Don't be so stingy. Every time I justifiably defend my own interests, he calls me petty. Now the boomerang has come back to hit him. Let's see how magnanimous he can be." Bob was left speechless by my words, his face turning red, whether from pain or anger. Hearing this, the doctor didn't waste any time and immediately checked Tina's test results on the computer. The doctor walked over to Tina with a complicated expression and whispered a few words to her. After hearing them, she froze. For a moment before replying to the doctor in a low voice, the emergency room was so noisy that no one could clearly hear their conversation. Only the corner of my mouth twitched upward slightly. They must have noticed. Just then, my in-laws arrived and began berating me for not taking good care of their son, blaming me for Bob's condition. "Bob, we're having a baby. Can I use that medicine first?" Tina's words exploded like a thunderclap. The in-laws were in disbelief, unable to accept that their outstanding son had an affair and fathered a child out of wedlock. "Who do you think you are, casually slandering my son like this, with such loose morals? Who knows whose child it really is?" Bob, who had been reluctant just moments ago, now wore an expression of heroic sacrifice. "Don't make things difficult for Tina. Give the medicine to Tina first. Saving this child is what matters most." The two held hands, gazing at each other with tear-filled eyes. It was rather amusing. The doctor had already planned to administer the medicine to Tina first upon learning of her pregnancy. Unaware of this, the two had put on quite a show, seeing her son admit to the matter. What else could my mother-in-law say? She just blamed me harshly. "Don't blame Bob. It's your own fault for not being able to conceive after being married for so long. In my past life, Bob watched as his parents pressured me to have children and chose to stay out of it. A few times when I retorted, he even scolded me for being too blunt and making them lose face. This time, I want to see how these prideful old folks will handle the shame of him fathering a child out of wedlock." The doctor interrupted the grandmother's scolding. "Now we're ready. He needs emergency surgery." After signing a pile of forms, the medicine was delivered just as he was being taken to the operating room, perfectly timed for use. The surgery took a long time before it was finally over. After being admitted to the ward, the doctor came to inform us of the situation. His lower body had been crushed for too long, and they would try their best to save his legs. However, his lower body was severely damaged, and even if he recovers, it might not function properly. Upon hearing this, the in-laws immediately collapsed to the ground. I was secretly overjoyed. Though he didn't die, he'd become a eunuch now. After a long moment of stunned silence, my father-in-law nudged my mother-in-law and said to me with difficulty, "Kathy, don't worry. Bob can still be cured in the future. For now, let's just placate Tina. Once she gives birth, we'll take the baby and raise it for you." I curled my lips and replied calmly, "I won't raise someone else's child. Did you really think I could keep living with this trash?" Bob rasped furiously, "You heartless bitch. Don't even dream of divorcing me." I couldn't care less about his verbal threats. "If you don't agree, I'll expose your affair and your inadequacy. What will your classmates and colleagues think when they find out? You wouldn't want to lose your job too, would you?" Bob's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at me fiercely. He knew I was capable of doing it. He had always cared deeply about his reputation, and his workplace placed great emphasis on personal integrity. That's why in our previous life, even after having an affair with Tina, he never dared to mention divorce to me. It wasn't until after Tina's death that he discovered she had been pregnant, and then he pinned everything on me, poisoning me with toxic mushroom soup. Bob, who thought he would die, narrowly escaped death. I was upset by the sight. Since we had already fallen out, I decided not to stay there any longer. After returning, I immediately contacted a lawyer to gather evidence. My parents were furious when they found out about the incident. Even the most conservative approach is based on the premise of mutual loyalty. Now he's done such a shameless thing, and they strongly support my decision to divorce. The divorce went more smoothly than I expected, and all the assets were awarded to me. Perhaps they were afraid I'd make a scene that would spread throughout the city, or maybe they were certain Tina's pregnancy was secure, and the two of them were desperate for legitimacy. In any case, a month later, I was single again. I truly didn't want to sacrifice my own future just to get revenge on those two despicable people. Now I just want to live my own life. Those two still have a pile of mess waiting for them. They'll bring about their own destruction sooner or later. I only heard about them again when my mom told me. At the dinner table, my mom casually brought it up. "Do you know what happened to Bob?" I paused my chopsticks and shook my head. My mom gloated with schadenfreude. "He beat Tina so badly she had a miscarriage." My dad's eyes widened. Weren't they about to get married? How did it come to this? My mom immediately put down her bowl, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Turns out the baby wasn't even his. He flew into a rage when he found out, beat her up, got arrested, and the whole thing was reported to his workplace. Now everyone knows. There's no way he's keeping his job now. After dinner, I asked a few close friends for details. After Bob and I got divorced, Bob's mother was extremely attentive to Tina, buying her many nutritional supplements for her pregnancy. Seeing Bob's mother's behavior, she asked for a lot of money. As the child in her belly is now the only heir of the G family, she wanted the stars in The sky, and the elderly couple from the G family would have tried to get them for her, but Bob's mother kept pressuring her to get married, which infuriated her. How could she possibly marry a useless man? Fed up with the nagging, she bluntly admitted in front of them that the child wasn't even Bob's. The G family couldn't believe it and tipped Tina for a non-invasive paternity test. The results showed the child wasn't his. He endured this pain to save Tina, only to be played for a fool. How could he swallow this anger? After being arrested, he fainted due to his body not having fully recovered. He is currently receiving treatment in the hospital. After work that day, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. It was the police. The voice on the other end sounded urgent. "Is this Miss Kathy? We need your immediate assistance at the city hospital." I rushed to the hospital and got the full picture of what was happening. After Bob woke up in the hospital, he took advantage of the dinner hour to sneak into Tina's room, held her at knife point, and forced her onto the rooftop. The situation was reported to the police after someone noticed. The request made to the police was to see me, so I was taken to the rooftop by the police, who repeatedly assured me of my safety before going up. I didn't dare to walk over, and Bob was also afraid of an ambush and didn't dare to come closer. We just stood our ground like this. I was the first to break the silence. "Don't act impulsively, don't you, love her dearly," as if I had hit a nerve. He roared, "What do you know? This bitch actually lied to me." Bob's knife had already cut the skin on her neck, leaving a trail of blood. Tina's teeth were chattering uncontrollably, and a damp patch slowly spread across the hem of her pants. Trembling, he begged for mercy. "It's all my fault. Please spare me. I promise I'll marry you." Bob sneered, "Didn't you say I was just your dog? How could you marry me? I got injured saving you, and you dared to betray me." Then, with a deranged grin, he turned to me and snarled, "So you're back too, huh? Why didn't you stop me? You let me become a cripple. Both of you deserve to die." My heart shuddered. "Since you've remembered, how dare you blame me? Didn't I try to stop you back then? How did you treat me? You're here blaming this and that, but wasn't every single time your own choice?" Upon hearing my words, he went berserk like an unleashed mad dog, shoved Tina to the ground, and brandished a fruit knife. As he lunged at me, terrified, I scrambled backward, only to hear a loud bang. Bob collapsed to his knees, clutching his gunshot wound and moaning in agony. The two quickly rushed over and pinned him to the ground. Seeing this, Tina, no longer frightened, sneered, "I wasn't wrong to call you a dog. You were always my lapdog, and now you're a castrated one, still dreaming of marrying me. What a joke." Bob's eyes nearly spat fire at her words. Suddenly, he broke free with a fierce struggle and charged toward Tina. Holding her, he tumbled off the rooftop of a dozen floors, plummeting downward. Although an air cushion had been laid out below, Bob hit the edge of the cushion and bounced onto the ground. Tina landed on the air cushion and was not in any life-threatening danger. After all this commotion, Bob was sent back to the operating room. His parents actually had the audacity to come to my door. "Kathy, Bob still has feelings for you. He knows he was wrong now and has been punished. He won't mess around anymore." A look of disdain flashed in my eyes. Of course he wouldn't mess around. He's completely incapable now. They only knew that Bob had kidnapped Tina, shouting to see me, but they didn't know the full story and thought Bob wanted to remarry me. I waved my hand, ready to close the door, but they pushed against it. "How about this? We'll transfer the house from our hometown to you too. Now you have nothing left to say, right? Let's get remarried tomorrow." As if they were granting me some enormous favor. My eyes were icy cold. "Even if Bob survives, he'll still spend the rest of his life in prison. How dare the two of you have the nerve to come here and say such things to me?" Bob's father looked displeased. "A divorced woman like you, who would even want you, married for so long and never got pregnant. Who knows if there's something wrong with you? We've already thought it through. Once you and Bob remarry, we'll adopt a child for you to raise back home. When Bob gets out, your family will still be whole and complete." Wow, what a grand promise. What a shameless face. What kind of dream are you living in? Have you lost your minds? Instead of meddling in my life, you should focus on your own son. By the time he gets out, he'll be in his 70s or 80s, no job, no pension. How on earth is he supposed to survive? Bob's father was so furious his eyes turned red. "So isn't that why I'm coming to you now? A day as husband and wife brings 100 days of kindness. You can't just watch me die without helping." Bob's mother blurted out the words from the bottom of her heart without hesitation, thinking I'm an easy target, coming to me as a last resort. I wasn't about to indulge them. "If you're worried Bob won't have anyone to take care of him, why don't you just have a second child yourselves?" Called the neighborhood security to drag them away, saying they'd call the police if they saw those two again. Bob wasn't so lucky this time. The whole incident left him with nerve damage, aphasia, and hemiplegia, which hurt him more than death itself. He was granted medical parole and taken home for care. Tina was traumatized by this incident and became all paranoid. I heard her family took her back to their hometown. The next time I heard about Bob was in a news clip I came across on a short video platform. Maybe my words last time provoked his parents. They actually went ahead and had a second child. But it wasn't Bob's mother who gave birth, it was Bob's father who had an affair with a younger woman and fathered a child. The woman carried the child into their home, declaring she would make Bob's father divorce and be with her. The chaos escalated to the point where the media got involved. Bob's mother, who valued her reputation above all, took to social media to vent her anger, condemning the mistress and her husband's despicable actions. She gained a wave of sympathetic supporters, however. After Bob's past behavior was exposed, some people said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. When I opened the comments section of her account, the top comments were filled with mockery and sarcasm, though there were some supportive and comforting messages below. She was originally the victim in this matter, but back when I was in the same situation as her, she didn't blame her own son for his mistakes. Instead, she placed all the blame on me, an innocent party, back when she said Bob cheated because I was useless. She probably never imagined she'd end up like this herself, just as I boarded the high-speed train with my parents for our vacation down south. My phone buzzed with a notification for a follow-up message. I unlocked my phone. It turned out that Bob's father had earnestly explained that everything he did was for Bob's good, as he was now bedridden with paralysis. What would happen to him after the old couple passed away? They raised this child so that he could take care of Bob in the future. Bob's mother finally agreed to the divorce, but not to leaving the home. She serves everyone at home like a nanny. This was a hard slap in the face to Bob's mother. Supporters online back then, people have been criticizing her relentlessly, but her endurance didn't bring her a better life. Before long, that woman started urging Bob's father to transfer the house to her. One late night after securing the property, she abandoned the child. She took off with all their money. By the time they realized what had happened, she was long gone. Now they had to take care of the child, while also looking after Bob, who was paralyzed. They truly had the will but not the means. Misfortunes never come singly, as the woman had even mortgaged their house to loan sharks. Now that the house was also taken away, the family had no choice but to return to their hometown in disgrace. My mother patted me on the shoulder, signaling me to look ahead. Two elderly people were hunched over, one holding a child and the other pushing a wheelchair, the wheelchair carrying an emaciated person tipped over on the uphill slope, sending them crashing to the ground. It instantly drew a crowd of onlookers. I squinted for a closer look. Wasn't that my ex-husband's family? There's not a trace left of his former handsome and upright demeanor. Crouching on the ground, he tries to bury his head to escape the gazes of those around him, yet he can't even manage this simple movement. All he can do is whimper and squirm feebly on the ground. Kind-hearted onlookers couldn't bear to watch and quickly stepped forward to help him up. As they dragged him to his feet, the skin on his back was exposed. His back was already covered with bed sores, a truly horrifying sight. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow in my heart. Let it be. Just live this half-dead existence. Arrived in the South with my parents and had a great time for a while. Only after being reborn and coming back did I truly let go and find peace. My mom sipped coconut juice and sighed about life. From now on, your dad and I won't interfere with your decisions anymore. We just hope you know that no matter what choices you make or what results come from them, we'll always be here to support you. Wow, why are you being so sentimental? My dad patted my head and said, we just don't want you to be affected by all these messy things. I smiled and hugged them. No way, this time I won't be trapped by someone who doesn't love me. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.